development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With the rockets or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1 0 1 1 0 1 1 6 3
doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening. If you were looking for Troubled Minds Radio, you've come to the right place. I'm your host, Michael Strange. I am here with your co-host, Frank Pierce. And we would like to say hello to all of you who might also have troubled minds. This show is live. If you guys would like to be part of the show tonight, the number to call, 702-957-1037. One more time, 702-957-1037. We will be taking live calls throughout the entire show, so if you want to be part, you know what to do. Give us a call. Or you can click the Discord link. You can find that in the Little Green Men stream on Facebook, or if you go directly to the website, troubledminds.org, everything is there. Everything should be there. You should be able to see this stream on Troubled Minds. And if you guys would be so kind as to check that out for me, check out the website, make sure the stream is working over there to make sure we cover all platforms. That would be amazing. I'd appreciate that feedback if you guys could do that throughout the show. One more time, troubledminds.org. We should be streaming live directly on the website. So I did a test yesterday and everything worked, so I'm hoping it's working tonight. So so far so good, I think, and I hope everybody's well. This show, if you're new to this show, what we do is we talk about space news. We talk about aliens. We talk about UFOs. We talk about anomalous things. We talk about basically the things that the government doesn't want us talking about. Basically the things that the technocracy, the media, large corporations, that they don't want us talking about. Well, here we are. We're doing it anyway. We do it because we enjoy it. We think it needs to be talked about, and we think you guys enjoy hearing about it and talking about it with us. So we're going to do that. We'll do some space news, and we'll get into a topic tonight. Tonight's topic night. Okay, topic night means that we have a deep topic. We have some interesting things to get into, and specifically, Frank teased it last show, but this is actual secret UFO FBI documents that discuss interdimensional aliens. So we're gonna dig into that a little bit because there's some pretty fascinating stuff in there that have been actually released by the government. So that tells you a lot about what's happening here. So we'll do some shout outs in a minute, but before we do any of that, first things first. Ladies and gentlemen, your co-host, Frank Pierce.
Hello, I'm Frank Pierce. We're back again for another exciting topic, and a lot of interesting things, a lot of parallels between this topic we're covering today and some of the stuff we've covered in the past. So we'll discuss that when we get to it. But looking at these documents, looking at these government documents that discuss aliens, it blows your mind because they're taking it just as seriously as we are. They're looking into this stuff with as much curiosity as we are. But again, they have the resources and we don't. So they tend to cover things up. They tend to look at it differently than the public. But we'll get into that as we go. As always, join the Discord. You can hop in here, talk to us, join the caller queue when you do, and we'll pull you in for a conversational topic. Or you can call into the phone number. I can never remember the phone number. Why don't you tell us? What's the phone number?
I got the phone number, 702-957-1037. Give us a call. Open lines all show. So if you guys want to talk about aliens, you want to talk about the government, you want to talk about all the things we're not supposed to talk about, that's what we're here talking about. So please do. We've learned a lot from you guys, and that's, again, why we have open lines, why we have an open Discord, and why we read the comments. If you guys want to tell us we're full of crap, we want to hear it. Please call us and do that. Give us feedback on the show. Talk about the things we're talking about. If we miss something, we want to hear it, okay? We are human after all, and between the two of us, we only have 4 arms and 4 eyes, etc. So you kind of get the point. We can't cover everything.
As far
we try
as you
to.
know.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Well, I'll let Frank speak for himself. I have 2 arms and 2 eyes. Okay, but there you are. So if you guys want to be part of the show, we've learned a lot from a lot of the people that have joined, commented, called, been on Discord with us. So it is a big part of the show, and we appreciate when you guys do that. So keep the comments coming. We'll read them as we can. And looking for some calls, looking for some people interested in some aliens and some secret government documents. We'll do that in just a sec. So we're going to do some shout-outs, we'll do some news, and then we'll get into that specifically. But
yeah, for
now,
sure. No, let me finish my intro. Come on, you're stepping on my toes. I have the one moment in the show to intro myself.
Oh, my bad. You said do the number, man. That was my cue to cut in. All right, go ahead.
I demanded the special music and everything, and now you're taking that time away from me.
All right, fine, go.
We're going to have some contract negotiations after this is over.
All right.
Anyway, what was I saying? It's all about looking at the links between things, looking at these government documents, looking at the news, looking at it on its surface. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But once you start to look at the whole picture and see the links between things, the truth starts to come out. And that's what we're seeing here. That's what more and more we do the show. We're starting to see the links between these topics and how they kind of corroborate each other. But we'll get into that with the news and the FBI UFO documents. That's all. Let's get into it.
I'm going to read the number one more time, just so we're all in the up and up. We parentheses this just properly. If you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. We are live. The date tonight, no, not November, December 2nd, 2018. So if you're listening tonight, this is live, and we are taking calls. So please get in here and help us with the show. We'd appreciate hearing from you guys. All right. Shout outs, and then we're going to do some news. Nick gets the vaunted first. What's up? I think that's a few in a row for Nick. The actual first, and then Fred, like a quick second. You guys are bam, 1 and 2. Thanks for showing up, guys. We got Dave, Michael, Mo, Michael again, Todd, and a great comment from Michael. He says, my new favorite show. Thank you. We appreciate that a lot. And he says, my wife said you found your people. LOL. Okay. Hey, man, there's worse people. Okay, there's worse people on this planet to have found your people, so we appreciate that. Okay, so let's go, Frank. What do we got? Let's do some news.
1 second. I got a slight situation I got to deal with here. 1 second.
Okay, I'll start with some news. Let's go to, let's see. I pulled this one up a couple shows ago, and we never actually quite got to it. Okay, but if you didn't notice, we've talked about Antarctica quite a bit and some of the interesting things that happen there. Okay. And, we've discussed Nazis and pyramids and UFOs and aliens, and maybe Antarctica's part of Atlantis, or was Atlantis, or still is Atlantis under the ice, all kinds of stuff, right? Well, right here, there's some interesting things happening underneath Antarctica, okay? This was from November 21st, so it is a little bit old, but we didn't touch on it, and I wanted to. So this is some of your ice sheet melting. This is some of the stuff that they talk about with global warming, with climate change, right? But suddenly, there's a new, reported by sciencealert.com, there's a new headline that says a hidden radioactive heat source seems to be melting East Antarctica from below. How about that? How does that make you feel? So we have all this climate science, we have all the data, we have the computers, computer models, CO2, but then there's this huge heat source underneath Antarctica, melting the glaciers, and we have no idea what it is. So I'm pretty sure if we don't know what it is, the computers don't know what it is. They can't fit it into the algorithm. Anyway, you get my point, right? What do you guys think about this? Go ahead.
These climate models are all nonsense anyway. These climate models they use to determine what's this and what's that. How's the temperature going to change? And you're exactly right. It seems they've discovered this radioactive rock that's emitting heat. And of course, they don't account for that in these algorithms and these climate science models. There's probably a billion things they don't account for, right? The world is infinite and full of possibilities. There's so many strange things everywhere. And of course, we always narrow down on specifics. We want to look at this specific thing causes that, this specific thing causes that. But in reality, it's all these things together in life, right? Everything interacts with everything else. And again, it doesn't surprise me that this is just discovered. I'm sure they'll discover some other strange phenomena that's causing climate change too. And that's just the process. I think, again, we're caught in this trap of assuming we know everything, assuming we know every way the world works. And this is just more proof that we don't. Stuff comes out of nowhere that you would never.
That's a fact. I've heard this referred to as complexity theory, and that we know like a very small percentage of the things that we need to know to actually have like a unifying theory about the Earth and climate and all things on Earth, not just the climate, about plate tectonics and volcanoes and earthquakes and the whole thing, right? We know a little bit. And so when you're dealing with a little bit and you're trying to make big changes, you could make big problems. So I think we've talked about this quite a bit. I just wanted to point this out, that there's an actual radioactive heat source somewhere underneath Antarctica, and it's melting the glacier, okay? And they don't know what it is. They don't know how to account for this, and they're perplexed. So we'll keep an eye on this and see if something comes of it. Todd says he's got a good comment here. He says, I've seen some posts about this, about an electromagnetic heat source, and they think it's a city. Well, there you go. Maybe this is Antarctica, right? Or I'm sorry, Atlantis.
Couple of
Antarctica. Go ahead.
Yeah, it could be. Couple of interesting points on this. The first is that, so here we have radioactive material, it seems, embedded in some kind of rock. And as this radioactive material decays, the emissions go through this rock and generate heat, essentially. So that's what's going on. And this is happening under Antarctica, but this could also be happening on some moon somewhere. This could be happening in the asteroid belt. This could be happening on an exoplanet. This type of heating system where this embedded radioactive material is, the rock around it is absorbing the radiation, creating heat. So here we have essentially what could create life somewhere. There could be a planet floating in the darkness out there, and its interior is filled with those heavy radioactive elements, and there's a heat in the core as a result of that. So this is an interesting way that life could come about using this kind of system. And the second point I wanted to bring up is that this is specific to a location. It's not just under the huge continent of Antarctica. It seems to be under one specific region of West
East.
So what does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean there is something embedded in there, or is this just random chance that it's only one point source? So you think about cities and technologies and some kind of alien artifact, having a point source, lends credibility to that kind of.
Yeah, agreed. And this is one of those weird spots. Like I like to point back to X-Files, that Fight the Future with the UFO under the ice. It kind of gives you that type of vibe, right? And we're talking radioactive. So radioactive is not one of those things that is easily achieved in nature, meaning that it's not prevalent, let's say. It's not everywhere. So of course it can be achieved, but on the Earth itself, to just go snap your fingers and we have some kind of radioactive element somewhere cooking up the glacier from underneath, it does seem suspicious, yes? Seems suspicious. Yeah. So there we go. That's about what I want to say about this particular article. And I just wanted to bring it up because we missed it. It literally was a couple weeks back, and I kept trying to fit it in, but it just didn't fit. So we fit it in tonight, and we will keep an eye on this. If something changes with it, or something happens, or they ignore it, and something is actually happening, don't you think that would be curious? That why are they ignoring this? It could be a major problem, right? We don't know what it is after all. There's that again. We don't know what it is. Dear Lord, so many things. We don't know what it is. A couple more shout-outs. We got Kelly. What's up? Showing up. Larry, thanks for showing up, guys. Yeah, we're talking about Antarctica. We're talking about radioactive heat sources melting the glacier, and we don't know what it is. So there we go. So anything on this, Frank, before we move on?
No, let's move on. Let's go to one of my stories here. Toyota taps Docomo 5G to remotely control its humanoid robot from TechCrunch. So basically, Toyota made this humanoid robot. It's capable of mimicking the motions of a human. It can move its hands. It has fingers and legs and feet and all this kind of stuff. And if you look at the picture here, basically they've set up a system where someone can sit in kind of a harness and connect all those motions to the robot, right? So we're looking at this guy sitting in the harness here, his VR goggles on, and through 5G he can remotely connect to this robot. Now, why am I bringing this up? What's so interesting about this? Well, again, take things in context of the news that we've seen before with that Russian robot, shooting things, jumping in a car, drilling a hole in the wall, and the Russian talk of putting robots on the moon. So using this kind of technology, you easily see how this could be possible is you have a bunch of people sitting down on Earth in these platforms, and they're connecting to these robots that are on the moon. So I believe it's like a 3-second delay, 3-second lag time, easily enough that they could interact with them in some way. But using this type of technology, you now see where the future is going. You could have humans on Earth sitting in these harnesses, controlling these robots on the moon or on Mars, and moving them around and interacting with materials, building things up, and humans don't even have to be there. So this is fascinating that they've finally figured this stuff out, having a robot controlled by a human remotely. What do you think about this?
Again, going to Hollywood, this brings to mind that scene in The Matrix. It was in I think the second or the third movie, which just got progressively worse, unfortunately. But there was a scene, remember, if you recall, where it was very similar to this. They had those dreadnoughts or whatever that they kind of piloted in these sort of exoskeleton type suits. So it wasn't directly a remote thing, but it does look very similar to what this cat's sitting in the picture here. Where it's definitely the robot arms and it's controlling his feet and everything. So he moves with it, and what he's doing is actually controlling the robot. He's got the VR headset on. It seems to be very science fiction. It seems like, again, science fiction is now science fact, and here we are. Welcome to the future, people. Welcome to the future. I think it's pretty cool. It's there's a lot of course useful things for this. You could have super strong rescue robots go in and save people from dangerous situations and things of this nature. But of course, every time you have something positive, it also means you could run these things into a schoolyard and murder children by the score. So don't quote me on that, or too late, I guess. But you know what I mean. Like if you can use it for good, you can use it for evil. And here we are. Here we are at this weird crossroad where we have all the power in the world, right? We're kind of on the cusp of being able to do some really tremendous things or some really frightening things, and I think this kind of lines up with one of those. It could be really good, it could be really bad for us. Yeah, that's what I think.
I agree with you. We certainly could use it for kind of military applications. I'm trying to be optimistic for once in my life, but I think we put these things on the moon, right? They dig up ice, they start making moon bricks, they build materials up there, and they can do it in the vacuum. They don't need atmosphere, they don't need heat or light or anything. They can just have this robot there who periodically goes back to a charging station, charges up, and you have people down on Earth that are actually controlling these things, building up infrastructure. So that's the way it could go. I hope it does go that way. That would be absolutely amazing, to send these things out to asteroids and send them to Mars and control them from Earth, or control them from ships orbiting those planets. That's the way we got to go. This is good technology. I think this is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I don't think this is definitely the way we have to go with robotics. I think this is a lot easier to slap a stun gun on the human to stop him, type of thing, instead of trying to stop one of those robots that's went AI berserker out of control. You know what I mean? Kind of a different scenario entirely. But that's just me tinfoil hatting. A few more comments here. Jeremiah, what's up? Thanks for showing up, man. Kelly says there's only one place on Earth that scientists say it's a nuclear reactor in South Africa. Natural or not? I'm not sure about that one. We'll have to look into that in the future. Heard of that one, Frank?
No. So yeah, I guess around the Earth there are concentrations of these radioactive elements that emit stuff and emit heat. And I think that's what we were seeing in Antarctica there, but I hadn't heard of one in Africa. So we'll have to look at.
Yep, we'll look into that. Robert, thanks for showing up. He says, you guys ever did a show about Operation High Jump since you were talking about Antarctica? You're in for a treat, my friend. Go to SoundCloud. Actually, just go straight to the website, troubleminds.org, and you can find all of our socials there. We have a show that we did on Antarctica. We talked about Operation High Jump. We talked about the Nazis and the UFOs. We talked about pyramids down there. We talked about all kinds of crazy stuff. Interesting, fun things. So we did do a show. If you want to check it out, it's in the archive, man. You can get it, and we'll charge you exactly $0 for it. You can go enjoy that for free. So thank you for asking. Yes, we did. Michael says, unlimited amount of soldiers in wartime, and that's exactly what this is. That's exactly what this could be with these robots. Jeremiah says, imagine a disgruntled employee getting a hold of these robots. Yeah, exactly. Right? Just, again, if you can use it for good, you can use it for the opposite. So, Lauren, thanks for showing up. He says, does uranium create heat underground, and is it radioactive and doesn't need other elements to make it radioactive? That's a hell of a question. Did you swallow that, Frank? Should I read that again? I have no idea.
Yeah, so radioactive particles naturally decay, and they naturally emit, various alpha particles and beta particles, depending on what's radioactive. And if you have enough rock around them, think of all these particles being emitted, the rock around them will absorb that. It'll bounce off all their molecules, and in bouncing off their molecules, it creates heat. So they actually do a very similar thing. They take some radioactive material, they embed it in a chunk of metal, and they use that as like a heater, essentially. So no radioactive particles can escape the metal around it, but the heat that these collisions generate makes heat. And so I think that was even in The Martian, they had some kind of radioactive heater thing. But yeah, that happens all the time. It happens all the time. Radioactive, what's the word I'm looking for? Fission reactors, they just accelerate that process by bombarding the radioactive material to make it even more energetic. But essentially, that's what's happening. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Thank you. I didn't know that. Now I know that. Now I can say, hey, Frank, how does this work? Thanks, Frank. Kelly says, 5G is very dangerous. All tests show it can kill birds and cause cancer at a higher rate. We will do a show on 5G. Stay tuned. Robert says, power suit. Yes, that's exactly what they are. And now they want to control robots, says Kelly. Yep. And in true comedian fashion, Larry says Jaeger. And he also said permission to board the Enterprise when he showed up. Permission granted, Ensign. Have a seat out of the way. Try to make as little noise as possible. And enjoy the ride. All right. So, okay. Anything else on this one, Frank? We got tons of comments. I'm trying to catch up, but I'm failing. But yeah, okay. So
let's move on. I'm just imagine this future, because this is incredibly optimistic, but I hope it comes true. Is you and your buddies, you get together, you buy a bunch of these robots, and you start up the asteroid 73BX3, whatever asteroid. You send these robots to that asteroid. Then you and your buddies, you start connecting to these robots and mining that asteroid remotely. So interesting, tons of possibilities, tons of interesting, cool things you could do with it, this kind of remote control technology. And I hope we see something about
it's like a video game. It's like a remote real video game, like Ender's Game. Oh no, here we go. Oh no, are we living in a reality or a simulation?
Yeah, if my remote controlled robot sees some squid looking alien on the asteroid I'm trying to mine, well, we're just going to look the other way as we stomp on top of it.
Do like the cops do and turn the camera off before you start stomping on it. Oh shit, I'm sorry. I support cops, guys. Just don't that was a bad joke. You can forgive me for my bad joke because it's a bad joke. It's not funny. Okay. Let's see. Joe, what's up? Thanks for showing up. He says, didn't they say it was never been in the moon because it was fake? Yes, sir. They've said that. We've said that. We've talked about that. We don't know if we believe that entirely 100%, but it's possible, right? Because of the way they do propaganda with NASA, etc. Maybe it's possible. Tons and tons of good comments, guys. We'll try and read them as we go. And as you see, it's tough because you guys are great with the comments, have a lot of great comments. And, yeah. But if you really want to be on the show, if you have to be on the show, if your comment has to get read and I miss it, just call us. 702-957-1037. It is up. It is up on the stream. You can find it on troubledminds.org. The stream is up on troubledminds.org, matter of fact. So you can find everything there. The Discord link, the phone number, and the stream itself. So if you just go straight to our website, there you go. You got everything. Troubledminds.org, and you can find how to find us. Okay, so there we are. All right. What's the next story here, Frank?
Let's open this one from CNET. NASA Curiosity rover investigates shiny object on Mars. So this is another slap in the face by NASA. basically, the Curiosity rover is running around. It finds this shiny object, and you'll see a picture of it. And they're very fascinated. NASA is incredibly interested in this shiny object, which is likely just a piece of gold or a piece of meteorite or something completely unimportant. Now, why do I say this is a slap in the face? So we get this picture of this shiny object, and sure, it looks great, it's amazing, whatever. And we have pictures of forks and spoons. We have pictures of things that look like debris. We have pictures of things that look like skulls on Mars. We've got so many different anomalies. The one I'll always go back to is that rock that looked like a rodent. So it looked basically like a little rodent creature on Mars. And when they took a second picture of that same area where this rodent creature was, it was nowhere in sight. It was completely gone, suggesting that it wasn't a rock, that it had moved in some way. But here we go. NASA is fascinated by a shiny rock when they could be fascinated by a rodent. They could be fascinated by a fork. They could be fascinated by a whole host of different things. But of course, in NASA fashion, they're trolling us with a picture of a shiny object. Come on now. Come on. There's much more interesting things that we see all the time coming out of these rocks. And this is what they focus on, some shiny goddamn rock. Come on now.
I think it's funny when you're like trying to think of a good simile or a good analogy for NASA, trying to undermine their credibility. You're like, man, I wish I could just come up off the top of my head like a really good way to dig on these guys. But no, they just do it themselves. Here they are, distracted by a shiny rock on Mars. Kelly brought up a couple shows ago when he was on here. He was saying that, why don't we go to Cydonia? Why don't we look at the face on Mars? There's apparently tons of ridiculous things on this planet that are obviously anomalous and have been question marks for years. And so here we are. No. Instead, we have the actual physical proof is in the picture. NASA's shiny object. And here it is. It looks a little bit like a when you're soldering something, it kind of looks like some of that, like somebody did a bad solder job. It's kind of what it looks like to me. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, some kind of reflective metal or something. So they say it's probably a piece of gold unearthed in the riverbed, because this is where the picture was taken, in a riverbed, or it was some kind of meteorite, iron content or something like that, polished by the dust storms. But again, if you Google, we don't have the photo here, but if you Google spoon on Mars, you'll see something much more fascinating than a shiny rock. You will see what appears to be a spoon on Mars. How did that spoon get there? Who put it there? Who made it? They don't care. NASA will never look into that. But a shiny rock, oh, they're all about that. So again, I don't quite understand what's going on here. It's almost like it's mission policy to ignore things that are actually interesting and focus on things that are mundane as hell.
What's the shiny object? I mean, again, they troll themselves. You don't even have to work hard to do it. They're just here. They are trolling themselves. Sadly enough, we got a good comment here. Michael says that if robots are far away, there would still be a long delay in radio frequency and control. You would think, though, right? So I think we just did an article a few weeks back. I think it was Austria. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Frank. But they have some kind of quantum entanglement thing going on where you can have basically zero ping from here to Mars type of thing. So maybe, current technology, yes. Upcoming technology, no. And that's going back to the robots. I just wanted to point that out. So yeah, there are ways around that are in the works. So interesting stuff.
So I actually looked this up. Earth to Moon, 1.3 seconds of delay time. Earth to Mars, 3 to 21 minutes, depending on where Mars is. Earth to Jupiter, 30 minutes to 50 minutes. And Earth to Pluto, 5 hours. So you can easily imagine when Mars is close to Earth, the 3-minute lag time, that would be no problem. 1.3 seconds delay time to the moon, that would be no problem too. You've played online games and crazy Russian servers with a larger ping than that, so I'm sure people could get around it in some way. But yeah, about 1 minute to 1 second to 3 minutes from the moon to Mars. I think that would be doable.
That would be doable for sure. Definitely. Tons of good comment, guys. If you want to make sure you're on the show, 702-957-1037. Go to troubledminds.org. You can find a Discord link there as well. And the stream, if you want to just enjoy it all, straight from our website. We're going to try and embed everything and roll everything through there because they're making it difficult. We're being shut up, guys. We're being... Maybe this is the beginning of trying to take us off the internet. Well, but if you go directly to our website, damn it, we control that, and you can't take it down. All right? So the best way to find us at this point, and for the foreseeable future, until Facebook hates us, is to go to troubledminds.org, and you can see everything there. There you are. What do you guys think about this? What do you think about everything so far? We'd love to hear it, and keep the comments coming. We'll read them as we go, and if you have to be on the show, give us a call. All right, keep on trucking. What else we got, Frank?
Oh, I was lost down a rabbit hole looking at the Chinese rover. Apparently, they've sent that thing up again. So the Chinese rover is going to land on the dark of the moon, I think this month sometime. We'll cover that more when they actually land and see if we get any pictures out of it. Let's open this one, though. 5 planned missions to Mars from The Guardian. So here are 5 missions they're planning to put on Mars in the near future. So InSight lander, that landed, and we already know about that. So ExoMars 2020 is apparently a joint forces mission planned for the summer of 2020 using a European rover and a Russian surface platform. This project aims to study the planet's atmospheric gases. So that's coming up. China's 2020 probe. China's getting in on this too. So in 2020, they have a probe that's going to go to an asteroid as well as go to Mars and Jupiter. Again, the space race is really going up. This one's fascinating. The Emirates Mars mission. So in the first Arab mission to another planet, the United Arab Emirates Space Agency Hope is scheduled to launch in July 2020. So again, this is really a space race. This is actually happening. And SpaceX Big Falcon rocket is going there in 2022 for a cargo mission. So again, in the next 5 years, well, it's 2018, right? Jesus. In the next 3 years, we're going to see crazy developments. Different countries. There's 4 different countries that I just mentioned there. SpaceX, all these people sending stuff to the moon, sending stuff to Mars. It's an incredible time to be alive, quite frankly. And if they ever develop more enterprising rocket technology, make stuff cheaper to get up there, I think within our lifetimes we could see people that we know, friends and family, going up into space, taking a job to build a bunker on the moon or taking a job to study something on some faraway planet. I think this is legitimately possible because this is all picking up steam at an incredible rate.
Yes, and with that said, so we have governments competing, we have private sector companies competing, we have it's crazy. The whole world's competing to who can get there first now, right? So it kind of makes you wonder what the hell happened with the last 50 years, right? What the hell happened? Suddenly everybody's putting their foot on the gas, and here we are. We're in that spot where it doesn't seem like we've wasted half a decade. I mean, we've been to the moon.
That's
right?
A very good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Is for the last 50 years, nothing happened. Like there was a probe here and a probe there, and that was it. Now we're talking about different countries, different corporations, all going there, all with different objectives. So yeah, some stimulus has put the foot on the gas pedal, so to speak, and who knows what it is, because this is all picking up steam at an incredible rate.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if there's nothing else on this one, this is a good segue into the next, the Boundary of Space article there. Speaking of the government trying to compete, I got a good idea of how they might. Let's move on to that one. What do you say, Frank?
Yeah, let's pull that up.
All right. So this is reported by spacenews.com. And interestingly enough, the boundary of space being reconsidered as a Virgin Galactic test program advances. So all of the Virgin, SpaceX, all of the private companies, Blue Origin, they're doing it, right? They're getting to the point where they're surpassing governments of the world, all right? With efficiency, with innovation, and with results. It's happening, right? All at the same time. The government cannot compete. So what do? Of course, what else would they do? You start making laws, right, to slow them down. You start to that's how the government works, right? They're not about moving quickly. They're about slowing things down until they can set the rules. They can set the pace, and they can actually compete. And here we are. So Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson, from this article, Richard Branson says that they're going to, within weeks, fly their Spaceship 2 suborbital spaceplane into space. It's happening. Few weeks, right? Well, now we have the government discussing, and this is December 1st, 2018. This is brand new, brand spanking new. And of course, now the boundary of space is being reconsidered. which of course means that, what was it, 100 kilometers, I want to say? I say kilometers because that's how they stated in the article. I think that was the previous. Let's see. You get a chance to read this one. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Frank. But
Yeah, so it looks like they're reducing it from 100 to 80, but then they're also considering adding different sorts of regulation on top of that. So I'm really not sure what the goal of this is. I think, again, it is to kind of stifle the competition, to make this international compact to reduce people putting stuff up there, like to limit it and regulate it.
yeah, it's obviously a first step to regulating space. I mean, that's really all it is. So they're like, okay, well, we hadn't really thought of this, and now they're passing us, so here we go. Here are the answers. Here are the answers. We're going to just change the rules, right? We change the rules of the game. We control the rules, and then here it is. So anyway, I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but definitely kind of segues from the last one where we have planned missions coming from all over the world, and now suddenly the powers that be decide, well, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Maybe it's time to change those rules. Well,
Yeah,
maybe it is.
this is kind of an anti-American sentiment, but I think we're crippling ourselves with the way the governments run, with the way that we regulate things. China, with their totalitarian state, can mandate things like that huge dam they built. Because it's one party in control, they can make these mega projects, and they can do anything. They can make like a magnetic launch system that would take 20 years to build because they have 20 years. Their party has 20 years in power to build that. Whereas we, Americans, we can't do that. We really can't, because every 4 years, the next guy shuffles in and their priorities are completely different. And so I think this is going to cripple the program, cripple the space program here, is as soon as we start regulating this and saying that companies can't do it, this company can't do this because of this regulation, blah, 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 but only the government is allowed to do this. Well, the government will never do it because they can't do it. They're, again, constrained by that 4-year cycle. So if this kind of stuff really picks up, we're going to, stifle ourselves into irrelevancy through all these regulations and things like this. And it's a horrifying thought to think that other countries are going to beat us up there because we're trying to limit ourselves for whatever reason. I just don't understand that.
Yeah, well, I mean, how else do they compete? If everybody's running circles around you, you have to... I think that's... And it's tragic. It is tragic, you're right. That we end up, instead of trying to make laws that help these guys, we're going to be making laws. Our governing body, our elected officials, guys, our elected officials. So if you think this is trash, and you think they need to get the hell out of the way of SpaceX and Virgin and Blue Origin and all these guys, if you think they need to get out of the way, you know what to do. Pick up the phone, get on Twitter, make a ruckus, right? That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem here. Not enough people know what's actually happening and what's about to happen. And this is what's about to happen, right? We're calling this. We've been saying this actually for weeks, months maybe, since we've been paying really close attention to the space news. And this is it. This is the first step. They're going to change the rules December 1st, 2018. Is this the beginning of the end of private space? Possibly. So we'll keep an eye on it and report as usual. But what do you guys think? More important, what do you think? We do this show to find out what you think, so you guys can ask yourself these questions. So what do you think? If you want to tell us what you think, go ahead. I'll wait on the number.
This just really gets to me because, again, we could be spending 20 years to dig a hole in a mountain and line that hole with magnets and launch stuff up into space, cargo. It doesn't necessarily have to be people, but like materials, blast it up into space. And that would be an intense project. It would take a lot of time, but from what I've read, the math looks good. You could boost something up there and save a lot of money. We'll never build anything like that. It's just not possible. A corporation couldn't do it because they'd have to show profits from it. The government couldn't do it because they're out every 4 years. And so it is depressing to look at the state of things and seeing that the government is now taking extra steps to limit competition. Well, try as they might, they're not going to limit China. Try as they might, they're not going to limit Russia or any other country. We're just going to limit ourselves. And it's a crime, really. It's a crime.
It is a crime. A few more shout-outs here. Prince, thanks for showing up. Got a good comment. He says, they're going to run into something in space one day they will regret, most likely a hostile species. Maybe they already have. Maybe that's part of what's going on with the Space Force. Jeremiah says, I'd like to know what's on the dark side of the moon. You may be in luck. We can get whatever we can glean from China, because they're about to be on the dark side of the moon. It's happening. Weeks, I think, if not months. It's going to be very, very soon. They're in works to get something on the dark side. So as much as we can hope to get from China, we're going to get it shortly. Todd says, Space Force is a joke. Yes, sir. As you say, sir. As you say. All right, so we're a little long on news. Want to finish this up or get on to the topic at hand there, Frank? How you feeling, buddy?
Yeah, holy moly, time flies, doesn't it, when you're talking about interesting things. Yeah, let's get on to...
Okay. So let's do this. So this is a document that was from the FBI archive. All right. So vault.fbi.gov, straight from their vault, straight from their FOIA archives. Okay. And I'm gonna grab this link and I'm gonna drop it in the chat here and pin it up. So if you guys want to follow along or maybe read yourself when you get some time, you'll have the link where we got this information. But yeah, so as I'm doing that, Frank, why don't you go ahead and kick this one off?
Yeah, so all these things, like, I think as a society, we pay too much attention to, quick 2-minute YouTube videos. We pay too much attention to, the 5-minute newsreel. And all the real information is in these government documents. It's in these long treaties like the TPP and things like that. All the real stuff you want to know about the world is in these things. But I don't think we ever look at them, right? Like, who goes on C-SPAN and watches the congressional hearings? Well, I do from time to time because I'm crazy, but most people don't. They have to rely on the news to get this information. And as we've seen with the Oumuamua, relying on the news for the real information is a waste of time because they never report it accurately. So trying to go back to these source documents, these original documents, is probably the closest way to get to the truth as we can get, right? Because this is where all the information is coming from. This is the primary source of information. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
So I think we need to focus on these kind of documents, these unclassified things, declassified things, the stuff from the Black Vault guy. We need to focus on this more so than crazy YouTube videos or, weird stories someone wrote on Reddit, because this kind of stuff is where you're really going to find the good information, or hopefully. That's what I seem to think anyway. It can be a bit dry, though. That's the problem. So we'll have to see how this goes, if we can keep it entertaining or not. But this is, a 69-page document discussing UFO sightings in 1947 that the FBI were investigating and looking into in some way. And we're just going to go through here page by page and kind of paraphrase and read and see if it links up to anything else we've covered before, and just have a read through and see what you guys think.
Okay, and real quick, Lauren says a page doesn't exist, won't open for me. Try it on a different browser, because I just tried it 2 different ways, and it does open. So that link that I dropped into Little Green Men there, it does open. So, and again, if you guys are listening to an archive after the fact, we will have this link up on the website. So that's getting updated. It will be updated shortly, and everything seems to be fine with the website. So we had some problems. Everything is back. New host, new other things. So for all information, Troubled Minds Radio, go to the website, troubledminds.org, and you can find it there. And we'll be catching that up, and everything will be kosher. But if you want to find this link after the fact and you're listening to an archive, that's where you go, troubledminds.org. Okay, so there we go. Todd says he clicked it on the link and it worked for him. So, okay, there you go. Yeah, so Lauren, try another browser there. Okay, sorry, Frank. Go right ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so anyway, we're just going to go through this. Again, this is FBI kind of correspondence and documentation and discussion amongst the FBI professionals in 1947 regarding flying saucer sightings, flying saucer captures and videos, and all sorts of things. So, we just thought we'd go through it and see what there is to say. Now, the first 11 pages of this are completely horrible. They're very difficult to read. You can barely make anything out of them. So we'll just go real quick through the first 11 or so pages, kind of talking about what's going on. So this first page, document opens up, UFO 1, it says. So this is a report from 1947, July 3rd. And again, I'll paraphrase. Basically, this guy, who was a FBI member, saw a flying flapjack turn up on Wednesday. And basically, this guy has 7,000 hours of flying time. He's a professional. He saw this flying flapjack going around. So they start investigating what this thing is. And the details here are really hard to read, but then I think it says the Navy and the manufacturer efficiently said that only one such machine was ever built. So apparently they got some confirmation from the Navy that this flying flapjack, this flying saucer UFO, was actually something the Navy had constructed. And again, if you're looking at this, I don't know if you have it pulled up, but it's very difficult to read because it's been copied a million times. But I think essentially what this first report is saying is this experienced airman saw a flying flapjack, and the FBI went to investigate this and found that the Navy had built something very similar, except the Navy said it could only go to 400 miles an hour, and this thing was flying, where's that number? 1,200 miles an hour. Interesting. What do you think about
I think that's a bit faster. I think, again, when we talk about all these things, it's known basically on a basic level on what they disclose that our aircraft, conventional aircraft, can go about this fast. Okay, about. We have close windows. We can, as laymen, as investigators as we are, let's say, we can guess these speeds, okay? But if they can go tons faster than this or have UFOs or whatever, they're not telling us, okay? So we can only base it on what's officially been released, okay? So we have that. But this was quite a bit faster, right? So it's similar to something being made by the military, but now here's the thing. So if the military knew it was their thing, wouldn't they not have a 69-page document on it? Because you just case closed. These guys saw our thing, big deal. Okay, just saying that. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there.
No, I think that's a very good point. So two things we can take away from this correspondence is that the first is they're actively investigating these things. So if they see a sighting report, at least in 1947, if they saw a sighting report, they would go out on the street and investigate these things, look into them, try to figure out what they were, to the point where they actually contact the Navy. And the second thing is the Navy seemed to have some communication with them, but they weren't really open on all the details. So again, they kind of brushed them off, said, oh yeah, we built something like that. And that was the end of the detail. So again, two key points. They're taking it seriously, these flying saucers, and the Navy seems to have some involvement. So from the first 2 pages, that's kind of what we can get.
Yeah, exactly. Renee has a great comment, says Navy had the first Air Force, right? That is correct. And then I think they branched off in, I'm not sure the date. It was the 50s, I believe. But yes. So the first Air Force was called something else, was part of the Navy. It's actually in these documents what the actual title is. I can't remember because there's so many words, So many words. Man, so little time. But yeah, it was definitely not the Air Force back when this was happening. So this was an incident we're going to talk about in 1947. So that's how far back we're going, if you guys are curious here. This is based on 1947, and that happens to be the same year of the Roswell crash. So, curious, and more curious.
I didn't even realize that. That's a good point. That's an interesting point. As we go through here, we'll see more crashes and more debris on the ground, and that's I didn't even consider that. That's pretty cool. So the third page here, again, these first few pages are very difficult to read, so I'm going to paraphrase. But here's another case report of this guy who was in an aircraft, he says, since 1919. He's flown for many hours all across the western United States, he says, and he saw an object around 8,500 feet, and it was flying at 350 miles an hour, and it basically darted up and down in a way that he couldn't quite explain. So it was moving around in a way that an aircraft never could. And so this guy wrote this letter to the FBI, and this is their photocopy of it. So again, even back then, experienced airmen in the sky seeing things they can't explain. Really reminiscent of this Irish situation that happened not too long ago, where we had pilots in the air seeing stuff moving around up and down, crazy speeds, stuff that wasn't a meteor, wasn't another plane, it was something unexplained. And the same type of occurrence here in 1940.
Right, and several of these as we get into this. There's a image from the 40s I've got up if you guys are watching the stream. I'll bounce back and forth between this and some other things, but the document link is in the chat there. So if you want to follow up with the document, follow along, or what have you, have at it. We encourage it because it shows we're not making this stuff up. We're actually taking this from government documents from the FBI vault of FOIA information, which is interesting. And yeah, so there we go. So as things pop in and out, we're going to kind of follow along with the document, and you'll see some other interesting photographs and maybe articles from 1947. But there you go.
Okay, here's so again, this whole document is just basically a collection. It seems it's from the Oregon Field Office of the FBI, a collection of correspondence and interviews and data about flying saucers in 1947. So it is located to the Pacific Northwest and sighting reports in the area around 1947. Okay, moving on, here's another one. Again, these first 3 pages are very difficult to read, but it seems that we had another pilot flying along, and he saw what appeared to be glinting metallic discs in the sunlight. And he said, object flying very high. And so he goes on to say that these 2 white and silver objects were flying southwest over Portland a few minutes before 5 p.m. And there were some corroborating sightings from the ground. And apparently there was a paper that was dropped from the planes flying overhead. I can't read this. But basically, again, more sighting reports from 1947 of discs and stuff flying around in the sky.
Which, again, Roswell, 1947. So it wasn't isolated. It seems to be a thing that happened in many different places. And there's some interesting correlations of where these places are that we'll probably get to later, I'm pretty sure. Eagle Eye Frank spotted this from a mile away, but there's some interesting correlations to that. So, but there we go. If you guys are into this, you guys have got comments on this. If you guys are familiar with maybe this particular incident, which we're about to get to in a sec, which is Hollywood 1947, basically, give us a call, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link. You can find both of those on troubledminds.org. That's the easiest way to just get on here, get on Discord, call us, get on the show, talk about these things, talk to Frank, talk to Mike, talk to everybody listening about UFOs. And if you believe this is real, if you believe this is government disinformation, if you believe this is just, I don't know, if you believe this is something else, you got to consider all angles, even the angles you didn't quite consider yet. So if you got a good angle that we haven't considered yet, we'd love to hear it. Please give us a call, 702-957-1037. Go to troubledminds.org, click the Discord link. We'll put you on the show. There you go. Pretty good at that, right, Frank? I said that like 10,000 times by now.
Yeah, I know. You're really good at that. I can barely remember the phone number. You got the whole spiel set up perfectly. Okay, I'm going to paraphrase all these early pages again because they're very hard to read. So basically what we see in these pages are a collection of sightings from people in the Oregon area reporting these things to the FBI. They're seeing flying saucers. They're seeing weird disc-shaped craft in the sky. Apparently flashes are being seen and noise is lacking. That's a key point here, is none of these people are reporting the noise. And that too is, even with some of our callers, they've said they've seen UFOs, but they don't hear them. So they see them floating through the sky, but they're completely silent. And again, that even goes to some of the Bob Lazar stuff, right? They're not moving these things with a propeller. They're not moving these things with a rocket engine. They're moving these things with gravity, which is why they're quite quiet. Also, to kind of back up the Bob Lazar type thing, flashes are being seen in some of these sightings. So some of that plasma discharge, I think Todd called in about once. He saw it with his buddy when he was having a drink. Saw some plasma discharge from underneath the unidentified flying object. And these people in 1947 are reporting the very same.
Right, exactly. And I've got I'm not sure when we get to North Hollywood. I thought that was what we're talking about here, but maybe not. So I got that ready to go, but yeah, anyway, I had a hard time
these
reading
are all the again, my eyes are bleeding reading this first section here, but this is all Portland, Oregon area sightings. Again, UFOs in the sky by pilots, by people on the ground, flashing with some kind of discharge, and completely silent. And so here's a story, I can barely decipher this. Some guy was at the back of a police station feeding the pigeons. At this time, the pigeons became very excited over something fluttered into the air all at once. He looked around to see what disturbed them, and he saw 5 large flying discs in the air east of Portland, 2 discs flying south, and 3 flying in an easterly direction. So this officer, who was a police officer, reported this to the FBI. They came and investigated, and they corroborated the sightings, but couldn't find any trace of these objects in the air.
It seemed to be that if we're going to say that the 80s was the satanic panic, I'm starting to think that 1947 was the equivalent for UFOs. It seems to be that there was quite a bit of sightings, many sightings. I don't know. It seems like so you go back and you look, right? So I pulled up a site and I was looking at UFO sightings in 1947, and there's tons. And you know what? Some are, of course, debunked as kids throwing stuff off of an overpass type things like that. But there's some other stuff that can't be explained, and there was a lot of them. So curious. I'll pull that up as we go. But I thought it was one of those interesting things that why 1947? Why suddenly did something change? Or was it maybe the media changed? Maybe the government involvement in the media changed? I don't know. Again, if you guys have theories on this, I want to hear it. We want to hear it. Everybody listening probably wants to hear it. And if you have a theory of your own that you haven't thought of yet, well, we're waiting for that. So please get it set up and let us know. And yeah, there we go. I got nothing smart to say. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, so these early pages, they end at page 15. Page 15 is where everything starts to be legible and where we can actually discuss things in detail. I'm not sure where the Hollywood thing pops up. So page 15 is now a newspaper clipping from Oregon that was forwarded to the FBI. Pilot recalls seeing discs. Dick Rankin tells of odd aircraft. So here we go. More reports of flying flapjacks turned up Wednesday from one no less than Dick Rankin, brother of the late Tex Rankin, and himself an experienced pilot of more than 7,000 hours. So he saw these things flying around. He reported them to the FBI. And again, flying maybe around, again, very hard to read this, 3,000 feet and far and fast, about 300 to 400 miles an hour, moving up and down, moving in the air, and very...
There you go. I was squealing about this hard. If you're wondering why this is a little bit vague, check out the document, guys. It's pinned in the Facebook stream. It will be on the website, and you can find this just by searching. What is this? I don't even know. We'll have a link for you though. So the point is that if you look at the text, it's terrible. It's like copies of copies of copies of copies of faxes of copies of whatever was going on in 1947. And everything since then for 30 years, because that's when they finally released it, and it's terrible. It's reversed, so it's like a black background with white type, and it does make your eyes bleed. It's a good way to put it, Frank. I was like, how you expect me to read this, Frank? What is this crap, man? Really? You'll see.
Have you ever read the book House of Leaves, or have you heard of that book?
Negative.
Okay, so that's basically a book. It's a book about a movie. And if anyone is listening has ever read the book House of Leaves, I highly recommend it. But it's basically super cryptic. There's stuff in the margins. There's all sorts of scrawling over the page. Some of the text is like inverted and fuzzed out. So it's a book that's very hard to read. And you have to really pour into it and look at all the details to understand what you're getting out of it. And this document reminds me very much of that. You'll see, if you want to pull some of these, pull the document up and go through it, but you'll see annotations written by a ton of different people. You'll see photocopy marks. You'll see FBI agents like penning in little details. I've confirmed this. I investigated this. Signatures by a bunch of people, chain of custody stuff. It's crazy to look at these documents and see that these are true historical records, right? People have redacted some of this. People have scribbled over it. This is amazing to look at. It's like a mystery all of itself. And I think this is where we're going to get any good information, is this kind of stuff, the source material.
Yeah, and kind of playing after the fact cyber sleuth, because there's some good stuff in the margins. If you guys want to go through this, there's actual stamps, like government stamps on these documents on when it was received and all this stuff, because they have to keep track of that apparently, right? And this apparently was in a time where we'll get into some later, but they actually had correspondence with none other than somebody named J. Edgar Hoover, if anybody's heard of that guy. So kind of curious, and I wonder if that's from the office of, or if he was personally involved in this, because his name comes up quite a bit. I'm sure you saw that as well, Frank.
Yeah, so I think he was the director of the FBI at the time. Correct. And so he has to respond to all this stuff. So now we're on page 16 now. So this is like a response letter. August 5th, 1947, from Omaha, Nebraska. Dear Redacted, I wish to acknowledge the receipt of your letter postmarked July 10th, 1947. Inasmuch as the information which you have furnished is of interest to the War Department, I have taken the liberty of furnishing it to that agency for their consideration. So someone sent in a UFO sighting report to the FBI. This got moved up to the director's office, and he forwarded all this information to the War Department and sent this form letter back. So again, it seems to indicate they took this stuff very seriously. They were looking into all these sighting reports, they were investigating them, and then they were forwarding everything to the War Department.
Yeah, and I think that's reading between the lines, knowing which departments these things went to, like there was actually war considerations here with who was actually putting their hands on these things. So they considered hoaxes, they considered Russian government, they considered all kinds of things. And so remember, this was 1947, this was post World War II, we're starting the Cold War now. Russia helped us beat down Hitler, but now suddenly things are cooling off between our relations, and there we go. This kind of the history when all this stuff was going down. So there was a lot of they say, I wasn't alive then, obviously, but they say from what you read that there was a lot of, what do they say? It's Cold War fears, or something to that effect, where they say that everybody was kind of in a state of, oh no, nuclear war is on the way, and so all these other things may have been something to do with that, at least with that kind of fear in the air. I don't know, but that's how they try and explain it away today. But again, I wasn't alive then, so if anybody was and you have a comment, you know what to do. Give us a call, please. 702-957-1037. Go ahead, Frank. Sorry.
Okay, now let's go on to page 17 here. So this is an office memorandum to the director of the FBI from, it looks like an FBI agent in the field office in Milwaukee. Subject, flying disc sabotage. So reference is made to the Bureau Bulletin number 42, series 1947, dated July 30th, 1947, section B, which advises that all reports concerning flying discs should be investigated by field officers. So they're saying, very precisely here, that all reports made concerning flying discs must be investigated by the field offices. So this is like some kind of policy they've set up in place. So again, this whole idea that, your MUFON, your whatever, you see flying disc, they were taking this stuff seriously back then. They said specifically they had a policy in place that all reports concerning flying discs should be investigated. I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if this is all a kid's game and hoaxes and, people trying to sell magazines, then why the interest from the FBI? Why the interest from the government? Why the interest from the department that would actually be able to declare war on another country, the Department of Defense, right? The DoD, who has the biggest, let's say, influence in those types of things. So there's some pretty interesting, interesting interest. You can't say that; it's two words in the wrong. But it is interesting how many people of very high levels are interested in these. Okay, so if they were nothing, again, you shrug, it's a hoax, big deal, right? But no, this is not a hoax. These are not hoaxes. Well, some are, of course. Some will be. Some are always going to be hoaxes. Remember, keep your mind open, right? This could be real. This could be a hoax. You got to look at the evidence. But if the government's taking them seriously, then they have a reason to take it seriously. And I think that's the most important part. That's what I was trying to get at when I was stumbling over my own words there. But yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. So here we go. A few comments. Let's read these and get this caught up. So Michael says, so does the Hoover Dam have transformers in? I've been there, and I don't believe so. Maybe. I don't know. I think you're making a joke at me or at the Hoover Dam. But yeah, maybe. Renee says, Project Blue Book was created around this time to help investigate the phenomenon. Yes, exactly. So this may have come as part of that. We'll do one on Project Blue Book eventually as well, and all of that, how this all started. But it is part of this, but it isn't exactly this yet. So we will get there. Kelly says that's because we both took scientists from Germany. I was talking about, I guess, Russia and United States after World War II. That's a good point. Larry says, hold on. Yes, it does in Ghosts, too. I'm not sure exactly what that means or what that was a reference to. And then Kelly says we called it Operation Paperclip. Yep. So we'll do that when we do the Blue Book and Paperclip and the rest of that, because they're kind of intertwined and related, and some of this as well with J. Edgar Hoover and all the rest of that. So yeah, as we go. Again, I'll read the comments as we can, guys, but if you need to be on the show, give us a call, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link. Go to troubledminds.org. You can find all of that information, including the live stream, every time we do this. And, yeah, there we go. So, yeah, so far so good. How are we looking, Frank? How do you feel?
Let's continue on with this memorandum. And again, I want to stress that these are FBI agents talking to each other through letters, I guess, at the time. And they're taking this stuff seriously. So this guy goes on, prior to the receipt of these instructions regarding that all UFOs should be investigated, 2 instances were called to the attention of this office concerning flying discs. One report was received July 7th, the other July 8th, and no investigations were conducted concerning these reports. So this guy, who's in this Milwaukee field office, is writing to the director of the FBI saying that the policy isn't being followed And I guess he's chastising the people for not taking it seriously when the policy was put in place. So he goes on here to say that he did investigate one of these reports, and he found an object in the shape of a flying disc 19 inches in diameter that had been found July 10th, 1947 by redacted electrician on the Jackson Fairgrounds. And this thing was made of a substance such as cardboard covered with a silver airplane dope material. The contraption had a small wooden tail like a rudder in the back, and inside the disc appeared to be a photoelectric cell or tube. Also inside the disc is a little electric motor with a shaft running to the center of the disc. So they guessed that someone was playing a prank. Like, this sounds like a drone in 1947, that someone was putting up this 19-inch UFO and trying to fly it around. Although they use the word might very often. It might have been this, it might have been that. So again, they're taking all this stuff seriously. A hoax or real? This case, this memorandum seems to refer to a hoax, but pretty.
It is. Every time I see, so I was cruising through this document. Again, if you guys have some time, I highly recommend you read this, because it is some insight. And Frank and I were talking a little bit before we started the show, and some of the back channels of how they do these things. They very specifically state in more than one occasion, like dozens of occasions even, that they have to be very careful about the press. They have to be very careful about who they allow this information to, and they talk about smaller and smaller circles actually having access. So it kind of falls in line with that conspiracy alien theory, because, you know, they're basically saying, hey, we don't trust it. We don't trust people. We don't trust the public at large. And that's a big deal, that if they don't trust the public at large with this information, that tells you what kind of threat level they're taking this as being serious or not, right? So, yeah, interesting, awesome, and all the above. So that's why we're doing this document. But yeah, anyway, so at this point, what do you guys think? If you guys have comments, you want to talk about this, you want to talk about 1947, Roswell maybe, this type of thing. I got the North Hollywood 1947 crash up, which we're going to get to shortly, if you guys can see that. And tons of stuff happened in 1947. It seems like it was the UFO scare of the 40s. Yeah. And J. Edgar Hoover had his thumb on the pulse, because apparently you never knew what was going to come at you from the Nazis or from the Russians or whatever, rogue Nazi regimes. Who knows? I have no idea. Pretty good stuff, though.
Okay, can you pull open page 19 and show that on the stream? Page 19 is fascinating, because look at all the annotations on this document on this page. You got a list of people who had access to the document. You got a bunch of signatures, a bunch of codes, it seems, like 5R7. All sorts of weird annotations on this document. This page is fascinating, too. So this is a teletype, I guess, a communication to the FBI office in Portland, from the FBI office in Portland to the director, marked urgent. Flying discs, security matter-X. That's pretty weird, isn't it? Security matter-X. We'll see that a few more times, but -X seems to be where this whole X files. At one time, the FBI actually did have security matter-X, and that's the X-Files. So this report goes on to say, one redacted former Navy pilot and presently redacted Myrtle Creek, Oregon, reports seeing a mysterious object on 2 occasions the evening of August 6th while flying at above 5,000 feet above Myrtle Creek. And they say Hatfield to be interviewed from Bobbitt. But look at all these annotations. Look at the people who've had access to this. Look at all these markings. This is crazy.
Yeah, you know what? I keep seeing that. I just noticed it now, but that on the where it says the evening of August 6th, does that say 6D7C or B76? I'm not exact, or B7C. I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure, but that I'm pretty sure that number keeps popping up in this. Like maybe this is I don't know. I would wonder what additional FOIA request for that B7C or 67C, whatever that is, would show up, because it seems to be something they drop in the margins quite a bit. We'll take a look as we go, but I'm pretty sure that it's not sticking in my brain as something new here. Looks definitely familiar as I read through the document several times.
Yeah, and that's security matter-X and B7C. So even on, if you want to pull up page 20, you'll see B7C annotated on this page twice. So this is another memorandum from someone from Conyo to Lad, the subject RS redacted informant B7C. There is attached to your letter referring to an individual postmarked July 12th, 1947 concerning flying saucers. There is also attached a letter of acknowledgement to redacted together with a letter to the War Department for approval. It is recommended that this letter to the War Department be forwarded to the liaison for section for transmittal to that agency. So again, we're seeing more mention of this War Department, and they're taking it very seriously. So all these reports are getting funneled to the War Department. Again, I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure why they were taking it so interesting. And again, on this page, these annotations with B7C, I'm not sure what that.
Yeah, so it is B7C, not 67C. B7C. So I wonder, so after this, again, we'll go dive a little deeper and see what that might mean. But it shows up in the margins a lot. So, and actually, I was reading further down, and they say that they should actually, when releasing these documents, cover those codes up. Right? There's an actual concern that they need to cover those codes because, of course, here we are trying to read between the lines here, and we see some recurring things, and B7C seems to be one of them, right? Or that maybe the original X-Files, like Frank pointed out. So there's some things here that, well, this is how the FOIA process works, guys. So when they clunk something out, right? This is modern. I'm talking modern day, but when they clunk something out, sometimes they miss a tiny little thing like that, like a B7C, okay? And then what happens is the people that did the initial FOIA request will get that information, and then they'll re-request, I want to know everything about B7C, okay? And then in relation to these documents I already have. And then the government's like, well, crap, we kind of screwed up. And so there's some concern with this in this entire memo here. There's the 69 pages where they talk about how they need to redact it because, well, here we are talking about it. So again, they don't want us talking about it. But yeah, so that's something we'll look into in the future. B7C, if it means something in particular, or if it was, maybe it is. Maybe this is the actual code, the internal government code for the X-Files itself. Wouldn't that be amazing? I don't know. I'm speculating here because I don't really know. It kind of stuck out my brain as I read through this, and I saw it again here. I was like, wait a minute. This keeps popping up, right? B7C. If anybody knows what that means, please give us a call or leave us a comment. We'd love to know.
Okay, moving on here to page 21. Again, we have another FBI teletype. So this is from someone to the director. Flying discs, security matter X. So again, here's security matter X. Lieutenant Colonel Redacted of G2 San Francisco advised today that he has no further information and that our Seattle office is in possession of all the information known by him and is handling the matter at Tacoma, Washington. Again, so we're not seeing definite proof of UFOs here, but we are seeing proof that there is a special classification for these things, security matter X, and they're all taking it very seriously, so much to the point that there's policy in place that any sighting must be investigated. And all these things are being forwarded again to the War Department at the time.
Which was the precursor to the Department of Defense, and you'll see that in the code here with G2. So right, didn't we have Bob Lazar talking about, was it G4? Is that right? Or S4, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah,
mixing things
all
up.
Sorts of crazy stuff.
Mixing things up in my brain here. But yeah, G2 is the before the Department of Defense, Department of War, like Frank's saying. My bad, go ahead. But that's what G2 means if you see it in the documents here.
Okay, page 22 is this round robin memorandum about the interdimensional aliens. Do you mind covering that while I catch my breath here?
Yeah, you got it, man. Okay, so here's the thing, right? This is where this gets really interesting, right? So this has kind of been a lot of dry, like, okay, is that a hoax? Is this is that? No, it's not. This is where this becomes WTF. Okay, this is a government document. This is located on vault.fbi.gov. Okay, so this is reported by the government, and it is the top right here. It says, "For your information, a memorandum of importance." Okay. So it is. This memorandum is respectfully addressed to certain scientists of distinction, to important aeronautical and military authorities, to a number of public officials, and to a few publications. Okay, so if you go down a little bit and start reading some of this stuff, so they're talking about, now this is actually real alien stuff. This is not. This might be a hoax. This is actual extraterrestrials here on our planet with us today. Or in that day, 1947. So if it was then, it's now, And if it was then, it was previous to that, of course. They didn't just show up magically in 1947. But maybe, right, so I'm speculating now. So if we had a kind of a conflux of aliens showing up in 1947 or the years after World War II, maybe it was. Maybe the nuclear bomb kind of got their attention, right? Maybe something like that. I don't know. What do you guys think? If I'm onto something there, maybe not. I don't know. But it sure seems like right after World War II is when a lot of this stuff really started happening. With the Foo Fighters in World War II, if you guys have heard of that, we should probably do a show on that as well, or at least a mini show on that. And these are the types of things that the government is taking interest in, as, again, right off this FBI memo, which is crazy. Okay, so here's some nutty stuff, right? So, if you guys have takes on this, I want to hear about it. Please call me, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link. You can find both on troubledminds.org. If the website's down or not working, let us know, because it is a new host and everything should be good. So if you guys want to check that out, I appreciate that feedback, but here we go. This is getting into aliens. Okay. Now, right off the document, the writer has little expectation that anything of import will be accomplished by this gesture. Okay, they're saying it's futile, all right, because they don't expect people to believe. Okay, so from the document, the more fact that the data herein were obtained by so-called supernormal means is probably sufficient to ensure its disregard by nearly all the persons addressed. Okay. Nevertheless,
let me jump in there real quick,
go
just
ahead.
to say that whoever received this particular memorandum at the FBI, again, took the time to underline the statement you just wrote, as if it was important for some reason. So again, these annotations that these FBI agents have put on this document are pretty enlightening, in that this guy actually underwrote this statement to bring emphasis to it for whatever.
Right, exactly. And so those are the things, right, why exactly, when you look at these, again, so we're seeing the same thing, just like Kelly says, looks like 67C or B7C, whatever it is, would mean they are referring to another document or group. Exactly. So what exactly is that? So I'm sure it's out there. So we, we prepared for this particular document, and in this one document, 69 pages, you can imagine there's a lot. Here's the thing. There's a lot that you can take out of this and research in other, dozens or hundreds of angles as well. So again, like we're trying to stick to this document itself, but of course, tons of things can spawn from this. And what exactly is that? The 67C or maybe the B7C is that, again, my first thought, seeing on how often it shows up in this document, just from, I didn't actually go count. It just kind of struck me as I'm going through it a second time now that it keeps popping up, right? It's definitely one of those things that keeps popping up. So maybe it is the original X-Files. Maybe that's the code for that, which would be amazing, right? Okay, so anyway, as we get down to this, so the aliens, this actually gets to aliens.
Let me interrupt here real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just found out what B7C might mean. So this is from the web page trying to tell you how to read FBI documents from FOIA requests. So whenever the FBI withholds information, it has to tell you which exemption, that is, which part of the FOIA law it relied upon to withhold the material. And it does so by noting the specific exemption code, which it typically puts in the right margin of the page. So this B7C is an abbreviation referring to the specific section of 5 USC 552B2, which is the FOIA exemption code. So whenever this B7C is appearing next to redactions, because that's the reason they're allowed to redact it. So they're hiding stuff there, and the reason they're hiding it is B7C. I think that's what that means.
Okay, there we go. Michael says, actually, he confirms in chat here, he says it's B7C, it's a code for withholding information. Does it say, Frank, what the actual reason is? Because I know when they do this FOIA stuff, they actually have to list a code with a particular reason. So does that code, is it like a blanket? Because, they'll have sources.
Okay, I'm pulling up the 5 U.S. Code 552 congressional documents, and I'll try to read through it.
All right.
If I fall asleep, you know where I got.
Okay, I'm gonna scan it, please. I'm gonna go continue with this document here. Okay, so this is where the aliens show up, guys. This is where it gets sexy. All right, so now after that outline, right? They're kind of disregarding this. They're kind of saying like, well, we shouldn't really take this face value. But then they continue on and say, nevertheless, it seems. Oh no, okay. The present writer has several university degrees and was formerly a university department head. Okay, so even though they underline this part at the top that basically says that, well, maybe we should take this with a grain of salt, maybe disregard. But then they go on to continue that, hold on, this seems to be a serious person, not a crackpot, and they're saying these things. Okay, so I'll continue. Now, this is where it gets to aliens, guys. This is where it gets sexy. So a very serious situation may develop at any time, right off the document here, with regard to the flying saucers. If one of those should be attacked, the attacking plane will almost certainly be destroyed. In the public mind, this might create near panic and international suspicion. The principal data concerning these craft is now at hand and must be offered, no matter how fantastic and unintelligible it may seem to minds not previously instructed in thinking of this type. I think that needs to be on a t-shirt. That's an amazing line. I didn't find a ton of really great writing in this. It was very kind of clunky and hard to read, and just kind of the facts, right? Like as the facts. But that's a great line, I think. Anyway, that's a great line. So here we go. Now here's where it gets super sexy. You want to cover the bullet points there, Frank? Or you want me to keep on trucking?
Yeah, okay, so this writer wrote in a couple of summary points so the FBI could better understand what was going on. So, first point. Part of the discs carry crews. Others are under remote control. Second point. Their mission is peaceful. The visitors contemplate settling on this plane. That's kind of a contradiction. So their mission is peaceful. They contemplate settling on this plane of existence, meaning that I guess these aliens want to move in. Third point, these visitors are human-like, but much larger in size. Okay, so that goes back to these tall white aliens, the taller ones that we hear about sometimes. They're human-like, but much larger in size. Fourth point, these are not excarnate Earth people, but come from their own world. So they're saying that these people they're not humans that have split off from us, that are coming back to visit. They have actually come from their own world. Point number 5 here. They do not come from any planet as we would use the word, but from another planet which interpenetrates our own, is not perceptible to us. So what does that mean? I guess they're saying they're in an alternate dimension, and this planet kind of matches up with our planet at some points, at some hot spots, and they're transferring through in that area. Does that make?
Yeah. So is that word? It looks like othoric. Is that right? I thought it was etheric. So okay, so they do not come from any planet as we use the word, but from an othoric
etheric
planet.
I think you're right.
Etheric, right? It's ETH.
Some kind of.
Okay. It like I thought I read it right the first time. Now I look at it again and it seems like it's not that. But anyway, there you go. So we talked about interdimensional aliens before, guys. We've talked about this, right? We talked about this with the Tom DeLonge and the To the Stars with the infrared. We talked about a lot of this stuff. So are aliens from another planet? Are they from another dimension? Are they from another universe? Like what's actually happening here? But this is a government document. Remember, guys, this is right off of the FBI website, right off the FBI vault. And here we have this highlighted part. You can see it right there on the screen in red, the stuff we're reading. Okay, so some of these discs carry crews. Some might be under remote control. Their mission is peaceful, and they might settle on this plane. Okay, on this plane, right? What does that mean? Multidimensional.
Not plane of existence.
Exactly.
Which implies parallel planes of existence, other planes of existence. And I think that's what they're getting at, is they don't come from any planet, but they come from an etheric planet which interpenetrates with our own, so adjacent to us in dimensions. Now, point 6 visitors and their craft also automatically materialize on entering the vibratory rate of our dense matter. That's an interesting one. We've heard a lot about that, about vibrations and these things, different people in different vibratory realms or something like that, different dimensions, and it all has to do with vibrations. What do you think about this one? Because I think this is a key point.
I think I don't understand a lot about this, though if there are different dimensions and it's based on some sort of vibration, whether it's a spiritual vibration or what have you. I don't know. I'm not an expert here. We're going to get into some Indian stuff here very shortly, but it's kind of at the crux of this, at the crux of the matter is do aliens, okay, so first and foremost, do you believe in aliens? Okay. Second, if you do, now do they, intelligent aliens, let's say. Now, if you do they come from out of our solar system and out of our galaxy, or do they come from some other higher plane of existence, the multiverse, another universe, another this, another that? I don't know. So again, that right there is a huge bite of the apple in and of itself, and we could probably talk about that for years, just that. Okay, so breaking that down so we understand that that's where we're at, and we're going to leave it at that. We're not going to go too far into this, because if you break it into that wishbone, we'll never get out of it. So we're gonna assume at this point they're saying that they're coming from a different universe somehow with a vibratory rate. I don't even know. I don't even know.
Yeah. Again, all matter vibrates at different rates, and so I guess in this parallel dimension they're vibrating at a different rate, but upon coming to our dimension they materialize. First, we just had someone in the caller queue. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to move this person in. Again, if you want to join the show and talk to us, you can jump in Discord or call the phone number. We had someone just join in Discord here, so I'm going to move them to the on-air channel. Why don't you...
You got it. Hey, you're on Troubled Minds with Frank and Mike. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, caller, you're muted. So
Looks
if
like
you
they're
unmute
muted.
yourself, you can join in the conversation.
Let's see. Maybe we can unmute them for them. Okay, anyway.
I'll move them out until they figure their stuff out.
Okay, so if you're listening there, you can join us. Just unmute it. We'll pull you back in the stream here. Okay, so there we go. So we got a couple comments here. Kelly says it's what Tesla talked about: energy, frequency, and vibration. So there you go. Knowing the 369, and I'm not exactly sure about that. So if you want to elaborate, of course, we'd love to hear that. Todd says things vibrate on different frequencies. Some parallel planes of existence vibrate on these different frequencies. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for those comments, guys. Thanks for filling us in. Again, like we said, we don't know it all. We're just trying to get through this and make sense of it. So if you have information that would add to this, you know what to do. Give us a call, 702-957-1037, or click the Discord link. You can find both of those on troubledminds.org, the official website, and the stream itself will be there as well. So you can find everything there. All right, so there we go. Let's keep on going. We got.
Yeah, let's keep going here. So the disks possess a radiant type of energy, or a ray, which will easily disintegrate any attacking ship. They re-enter the etheric at will, and so simply disappear from our vision without trace. Okay, a couple of big statements there. They have an energy weapon which can easily disintegrate attacking ships, and I think we've seen that with some reports of, especially in Vietnam, with these UFOs shooting energy weapons that attack the soldiers somehow. And second, they re-enter the etheric at will, and so simply disappear from our vision. So this does explain the perceived invisibility of these things. We had kind of settled on this theory that, perhaps they're using gravity to bend the light around the ship, and that's why we can't see them. But here they're saying another possibility is they're re-entering this etheric dimension at will, so kind of disappearing from our vision.
And as they desire, so they can actually change their vibration to be in the same point in space-time, but somehow change their vibration frequency level to move out of this reality into another. So there we go. Pretty heavy stuff. And so not just them with their vehicles and their technology and everything included. So pretty interesting and heavy stuff.
Okay, now we have point number 8 this author makes. The region from which they come is not the astral plane, but corresponds to the locus and talus. So students of esoteric matters will understand these terms. So what is the locus and talus, and what does that have to do with parallel planes of existence? I think we have some clips that explain that, because I had no idea before today. But apparently, the locus and talus are a Hindu depiction of alternate dimensions of reality that presumably this author is suggesting these alien ships come from.
Okay, which one? Is this a Hindu dimension S1?
Yeah, play the first one, then we'll play the second.
Okay. Here we go. Clip. This is so we're talking about the locus and the talus. This is LOKAS TALAS, and action.
The universe is considered to be billions of years old. Modern science, as well as Hindu cosmology, acknowledge this. But while modern science began to contemplate the existence of parallel universes and multiple realities only recently, Hindus have dwelled on these possibilities since ancient times. As per some schools of thought, there are 14 worlds, or lokas, in existence. 7 of these realms exist above the plane that humans exist on. The highest loka is Satyalok. This is where Brahma, or the supreme consciousness, exists, free from the fetters of birth and death. The dimension under that is known as Tapalok. This world is inhabited by immortal beings who are personifications of knowledge. They are beings of great purity and can access Brahmalok, the realm above them, with great ease. Under this level is Janalok, where realized beings live. These are souls who have complete and unhindered access to the material world. They can travel to any place at the speed of thought. Then comes Maharlok, the abode of great sages and rishis. These are beings who through long periods of tapasya have become greater than the devas themselves. Following this, there is Swarglok, a world that is often mistakenly assumed to be heaven. This is where deities like Indra exist. It is also home to various sages and Gandharvas. Mythological accounts show it as being on top of Mount Meru. Under the devas, there is Bhuvarlok. This is the realm of the sun and the planets. It is also the plane where life-supporting atmosphere exists. This level is inhabited by semi-divine beings who may occasionally become part of the human world as well. Under all these dimensions is Bhulok, the 7th plane of existence. This is where human beings live along with all the other species of life.
Okay, that was a lot there, right? That was a lot. Did you catch all that, Frank?
Yeah, again, so I think the takeaway here is that Hindu mythology from thousands and thousands of years ago, again, one of the Sumerian writings, Egyptian writings, we take them seriously because we know about them in mainstream media. But this Hindu mythology has been there for equal amounts of time. And they're talking about these parallel planes of existence. And they're saying that people go up in the planes or down in the planes. So we just covered the 7 that are above us, this material plane. And apparently beings from those planes can come down into our own reality, which sounds a lot like these etheric UFOs who interpenetrate with our world. So again, they're suggesting that this Hindu realization of alternate dimensions is correct, and that what we're seeing is these ancient depictions, these Hindu depictions of gods and creatures coming from this etheric plane of existence next to ours into our own reality. That's I think
that's a pretty good sum up, man. That's pretty good. I'm impressed. But what do you guys think?
We had
go ahead.
Sorry, we had that was the 7 above us. I think we have a clip that talks about the 7 below us. So the 7 above us seem to be good, beneficial, helpful people, but the 7 below us are kind of like the evil idea, this hell idea. So we can play that. Yeah.
There we go. A couple more comments and we'll play that. Kelly says, I've been delving into Hindu and ancient writings because their stories are incredible and very real. There is some interesting stuff there. That's the nuclear explosions back in the day, right? That's in some of their ancient texts, and that's amazing. He says it's hard when you don't know the language and the meanings behind that. And I think listening to that is proof that he used some words in there that's like, wait, what does that exactly mean? Like maybe you can take what it means from context, but knowing, maybe the history behind that word and the full text document that it came from is probably a lot better. But yeah, it's a good brief clip. Okay, what else? We have one from Marisol. Thanks for showing up. She said that was interesting. I think that's a she. Okay, so all right, here we go. We're going to go with take number 2 here, talking about ethereal aliens in different dimensions and how they actually can phase in and out. And so we had the higher dimensions now, or that was the lower. Now we have the higher. Yes. These are the higher dimensions.
No, other way. So we just talked about the higher good dimensions where all, I guess, the gods and the beneficial creatures live. Now we'll talk about the lower 7 dimensions and some of the negative entities.
There we go. Action.
Just as there are entire universes above the level that human beings exist on, Puranic texts speak of 7 lokas that exist below Bhuloka. The first world, under the human level, is Atal. This plane is ruled by Bala, who is the son of Maya. Atal is inhabited by beautiful seductresses and is a place of luxury. Under that, there is Vital. This is where subterranean beings live their lives mining and collecting gold. As with Atal, here too a lot of attention is paid to material possessions. Sutal Lok, which is next, is the realm ruled by the demon king Bali. Bali was once an earthly king who was defeated by Vishnu's Vaman avatar and allowed to rule this world. The world under that, Talatal Lok, is the realm of architect Maya, the demon who was the father of Mandodari, Ravan's queen. When Shiva destroyed the 3 cities of Tripura, he allowed Maya to rule this realm. Under this level is Mahatal Lok, a world populated by hooded Nagas who live in peace, happy in the thought that they are far from their one and only enemy, Garud. Next, Rasatal Lok is where Danavs and Daityas live. These beings have had a long-standing enmity with the Devas. The lowest of all worlds is Patal. It is where Nagas with many hoods live. Their hoods are adorned with gems which glow and light up this darkest of levels. The Nagas of Patal are ruled by Vasuki. These worlds, together with the worlds above Bhuloka, go into the making of the universe as ancient Indians saw it.
Kind of makes me feel like I should dim the lights and fire up some incense. Maybe pull up some kind of ancient dusty book and start reading, right? Kind of gives you that vibe.
Well, again, I think there is real knowledge to be had, whether you have to interpret it or take it literally, but there is real knowledge to be had in this ancient writing. And again, it could be, at the time they misunderstood what they were seeing, and so they made sense of it by inventing this fantasy. But the truth, the root of what they saw is still there. It's still represented in those writings. We just have to understand it in modern day terms. But again, I think there's real knowledge to be had from some of these ancient writings. Now, they mentioned something interesting there about the Nagas, which are snake people. And what is a snake person if not a reptilian alien?
Yeah, reptilian, yes. On with the reptilians.
So you got these reptilians in the lower dimensions, and you have these tall white etheric entities in the higher dimensions, and apparently there's free transfer. They come from the higher dimensions to our plane of existence, and they come from the lower dimensions to our plane of existence. All these different species and beings and entities. And, take away the fantasy overlay and rewrite it with some sci-fi terminology, and I think we have what we see here. Is craft transiting dimensions coming to visit us for whatever reason. So it does make a lot of sense in that.
Agreed. We got some good comments here. Todd says the Hindu gods are also blue aliens or blue humanoids. And I think you can see that if you look into some of the names. Vishnu, I think, is one. Kali is another. What's the other one? What's the one with the arms? Anyway, you get the point. So there are tons of these depictions where they are blue and have multiple appendages, and they've apparently were not actual from this earth. Obviously, they have 6 arms and they're blue. But okay, so Michael says that's what I believe shadow people are. They're from another plane but can't fully form, so they appear as shadows and move quickly. I think you're kind of onto something with. We don't know what these things are, and that's as good a shot as anybody taken right there. Todd says some of the ancient Egyptian gods, including Thoth, were portrayed with blue skin. There we go. Christian, what's up? He said just got off work. Hey, thanks for showing up, man. You're just in time for the last bit of the show. Todd says mining and collecting gold. Who does that? Who does that sound like? Oh, here we go. Back to the Anunnaki.
Another interesting point I wanted to bring up there is they said in the lowest dimension these Nagas were adorned with ornaments and things that glowed. And if you'll recall, I can't recall his name, the guy, Phil Schneider, who went in the caves, his reports of those reptilians is they were wearing strange things. They were wearing jewelry and devices. So there is some similarities there, that these reptilian snake Naga creatures in the Hindu tradition are wearing jewelry and stuff that glows. And Phil Schneider's seeing them underground with very similar looking things. So some interesting parallels.
Yeah, definitely. So Michael asked, so we're in the middle of these worlds if there's 7 above and 7 below. And I think the 7 above and below was a starting point. I think what they said in the clip there was that there's infinite. It goes on forever. And so the 7 is the ones we're most familiar with because they're the closest to us. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's what they were saying. But yeah, exactly. And then Todd adds, we are on the physical plane of existence with the most density. So what's that? You are my density. If you get the joke, you guys are amazing. If you don't, I'm a big nerd. Okay, Christian says, yeah, awesome, thank you. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for Karen. Thanks for commenting. You guys are amazing. If you want to be part of the show, one more time, we're talking about this information is coming. We're elaborating a little bit, but this information came from an FBI document, straight off the FBI website. And I'll put it right back up in a sec. It's pinned in the comments. If you want to follow up on this and find out that we're not completely full of crap, I promise you, this came off an FBI document. Okay, so we're kind of filling it out and explaining what some of these things are from these other terms, but this stuff is right off of it, right from the government, guys, right from the government. So either they're onto something or they're trying to pull one over on us. What do you think? Or somewhere in between. Somewhere in between. Anyway, so there we go. There we go. I don't know. Again, and if you want to be part of that show, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link. Go to troubleminds.org. You can find all that information. Be on the show. Talk to Frank and Mike and everybody listening. Okay. Sorry, Frank. Go ahead.
Absolutely. An excellent comment so far. Some good insight. Again, I think when you're looking for the truth on these things, watching funny YouTube videos is one way to do it. But I think the serious way is to look into these government documents, look into the ancient mythology, and try to draw some parallels and links between them all, and I think that's what we're starting to do here. Anyway, this let's just finish this off. This document goes on to say, they probably cannot be reached by radio, but can be by radar, if a signal system can be devised for that apparatus. And this guy says, we give information and warning and can do no more. Kind of hard to read here. Unless the discs are withdrawn, with which our culture and science are incapable of dealing, a heavy responsibility rests upon for the authority to understand these matters. Again, very difficult document to read because there's redactions and notes all over it, but this is like information to the FBI about these interdimensional aliens. Now, we actually have a clip here. Interdimensional aliens, that reminded me of something. A very famous call about Area 51. So let's play that clip.
All right. I like this. If you guys haven't heard this, strap on your tinfoil hats. This is pretty amazing. All right, action.
Online, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time on the phone. So give us something quick.
Okay. Okay. What we're thinking of as aliens, Art, they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, I'm sorry, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Discharge.
And this is the best part. This is where we have
I started getting.
So It seems like they're having technical difficulties. Like something's going on. Like the information he's actually putting out is not allowed. So there we go. Too good. If you guys aren't familiar with Art Bell, I highly recommend going back and checking some of this stuff out. It's amazing.
Yeah, did you quit that, or are we still playing?
No, it's got like a little gap, and then it's gonna kick back on. So I'm filling the gap here with some talk. So they cut, and they're back. Do you want to kill this or have them come back?
You can kill it. I just wanted to have that silence in there, so kill it. Basically, that guy called into Art Bell on Coast to Coast, and he said what he said, and he sounded very convincing, sounded terrified as he was saying it, and the radio station actually went down during that time. That's what the silence was. And he gets it back on air, and the caller is nowhere to be seen, and he starts talking to someone else. But he said a few very interesting things there. Extra-dimensional aliens that an earlier precursor of the space program has come in contact with. And look at what we have here in this FBI document, is that these aliens do not come from any planet, as we use the word, but from an etheric planet which interpenetrates with our own and is not perceptible to us. So these two people, they're saying very similar things. What did you think about that?
I think it's, again, there seems to be many parallels here with not just this in particular that we're talking about tonight with the interdimensional bit, but now we're going to the Talas and the Lokas, Loka, and some of the Indian Hindu mythology here, and this is amazing because it all seems to fit together. And there's our guys in chat there, Kelly Todd, that are the Anunnaki proponent guys that want to point out every time it fits. Well, this seems to fit as part of that Anunnaki bit as well with some of the Igigi and other things. But I thought it's curious that it's not just one part of the world, right? So we have the Hindu mythology basically saying, hey, look, there's levels that go infinitely up and infinitely down. And there's different beings that live in these things, and now we have this. Now this guy's saying the same sort of thing, except they're trying to take over, right? He's saying that this is not, these guys are not, whatever's happening with these aliens from these other planes, they're not here to be friendly to us. That may be the message, but he seems to be very concerned, yes. Like he seemed like he was about to cry.
Yeah, for sure. Now, again, we've run out of time here, but this document goes on to more about this secret classification X. They reference a bunch of times, a bunch more discussion about the importance of investigating these things. And again, if you go through this document and peruse it on your own time, you'll see that they're very serious about this issue. It's not a laughing matter to them. They're investigating all these claims. They're forwarding the material to the War Department and to the Army Air Force Intelligence Office. So again, I don't think you can, like, people kind of treat UFOs as a joke. If you tell someone you work with about a UFO, they'll laugh at you and think you're crazy. But here we have correspondence between members of the FBI taking this stuff deadly serious. So much so that one of the earlier memorandums we read off was some guy from a field office chastising the director that these cases hadn't been investigated when they should have. So this is no laughing matter. Again, if you talk about UFOs, people think you're crazy. But again, look at these documents. Look at these correspondence. They are taking this seriously, and they're forwarding this to different government branches. They're investigating it. They're wasting tons of money. Well, not wasting, but they're spending tons of money sending people out to investigate these things. So again, I don't think we'll have time to go through this entire document. But here it is. This is important stuff, and it's no laughing matter.
Right. So we did start a few minutes late because we had some technical difficulties. So we're not completely up against the clock here yet, Frank. We got maybe 10 minutes or so left. So if you guys, this is a perfect time. If you guys are into this, if you guys want to talk about these secret FBI documents, how they're actually citing interdimensional aliens in these documents. Okay, they're saying that they're making all kinds of claims in these documents that they have weapons, like energy beam weapons that can take down our planes with literally just the tiniest shot. Boom, dead. So curious, right? Like, and then not only that, where they come from, these different planes of existence, and then we have these Indian terms, these Hindu terms, not Native American Indian, Indian, and yeah. So there's tons of stuff here. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think? I'll read some comments. Kelly says it all fits. Mike, the stories can go back to Sumerian texts. Why? Because it's the oldest known writing on Earth. Yeah, no. I don't mean to disparage the Anunnaki connection, because it seems to be there. It seems to be prevalent pretty much no matter. You can find a way to plug it in, which is pretty compelling, I think. So we'll have to revisit that at another point, but we'll do one on just the Anunnaki themselves instead of the Lost Book of Enki. But we'll again, we're going to talk about that. We'll get to that. But you're right. It's we just can't tie everything into the Anunnaki every episode. Come on, guys. Larry says Agenda 21, globalist and reptilian in cahoots. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Agenda 21 and 2030 is to get people out of the country into cities, and that's what that caller was talking about. And, you think of stuff like these wildfires. Well, there's Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, in effect, is getting people out of the country into city centers, and it's happening. So if we have more time, I want to skip to page 38 in this document. I highlighted this one because I thought this was interesting. This is another memorandum, some correspondence between two FBI officers. And they say here, references made to my memorandum to you in the above captioned matter dated July 10th, 1947, indicating that Brigadier General George F. Schnulgen of the Army Air Corps Intelligence had requested that the Bureau cooperate with the Army Air Corps Intelligence in connection with the above captioned matter. So talking about a UFO crash. And this is the interesting part. The director noted on the referenced memorandum, I would do it, talking about going to investigate. I would do it, but before agreeing, we must insist upon full access to the discs recovered. For instance, in the LA case, the Army grabbed it and would not let us have it for cursory examination. Here we go. Here's confirmation between two FBI officers talking about this protocol to go investigate these UFOs. They apparently uncovered a crashed object in LA, and the Army grabbed it up and wouldn't let the FBI investigate. So they didn't even let them have a cursory glance at the object. This is pretty compelling stuff.
Yeah, so there's your government compartmentalization, if I can say it right, where they don't even, so you see, so these are actually supposed to be investigative arms of our government, right? The defense, the Army, the Navy, the Army Air Corps at this point, these guys all, somehow, some way, they work together. They're one government, right? But then they're playing these games with each other where the FBI actually says, I don't know if it's in this particular document or later on, they're saying, we're not helping you unless we can see what we're helping you with. Like, literally, that's what comes out of this. It's like these back and forth behind the scenes games in these documents where they're actually talking about it and saying, hey, if you won't let us know what this is, we're not going to assist you. That's it, right? So you see, like, there's like these power plays going on between, like we've talked about, the shadow government, right? These guys are non-elected officials. These people are like J. Edgar Hoover. These people are not elected by the people at large, by elections. They're appointed, okay? And they stay there, president after administration after administration. There's your shadow government people. That's what's happening. And so the same thing with these admirals, these high-ranking generals, 5-star generals, you name it. I'm not a military guy. I don't know the ranks and the things, but you get my point, right? These are the guys that are running this country. These are the guys that are making these decisions based on national security, and here we are. They're playing games with each other. One department's showing up at the crash, smuggling it away, requesting help from the FBI, but not letting them know what it's about, right? So you see what happens. And so these circles get smaller and smaller and smaller. And so it's not really out of the realm of possibility to say, hey, they're covering stuff up. They won't even share with each other. So of course, if the circles get smaller and smaller, the secrets get bigger and bigger. You follow that? Did you catch that? How they were talking about that, Frank, in this? How they were kind of fighting over this thing? It wasn't just once. It was several times in this document.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there, again, here's proof. Here's correspondence in 1947 between two FBI agents talking about how they're getting cut out of the picture. So again, this document, maybe not so amazing for, oh my God, there's a weird alien over there. Maybe not so amazing for that, but amazing for the fact that it's a kind of peek behind the scenes. It's a peek behind the curtain into how seriously they're taking this issue. So let me skip to page 44 and read another tidbit. Again, some correspondence. Someone talking about UFOs, and this guy goes on to say, according to General Schluggen, I think I'm pronouncing that right, the Air Corps intelligence are utilizing all of their scientists in order to ascertain whether or not such a phenomena could in fact occur. Talking about alien discs. And he goes on to say at the end, his attitude that is in as much as it has been established that flying discs are not the result of any Army or Navy experiments, The matter is of interest to the FBI. So they're kind of coming to the conclusion that even though the Army and Navy are grabbing up all these discs, it's not actually anything they're doing on their own. It's something else, some other intelligence or government or agency putting these things in the air. And this is why it's of interest to the FBI. This is why the FBI wants access to it, to make sure it's not, some kind of Soviet propaganda. But again, the War Department and the Navy are taking that away from them, kind of taking responsibility and covering it up.
Yeah, and fighting over who gets jurisdiction. Yeah, crazy stuff. We got some good comments. Christian says, like the serpent and the Kukulkan from the Mayans and the Olmec, also the Aztecs. I wanted to say Kukulkan. So, and he says the God's not from Earth. Thank you, Christian. That's a great comment. Here's another one, a great one from Joshua. Thanks for showing up, Joshua. What's up? He says, does anyone ever wonder if we're wrong about NASA and aliens? What if we really haven't found anything and these witnesses are just seeking attention and or too stupid to realize what really happened? And again, one more time, we're not here telling you what to think, and that is a completely 100% valid thought to have, okay? And so if that doesn't ever cross your mind, you're going about this the wrong way, in my opinion. I'll let Frank have a take here too, but it's not it's not about the answers, right? It's about asking the right questions, and if that question doesn't cross your mind, I think you can't ever come up with even close to the right answer. Yes?
I think so. I think to take this stuff seriously and to actually go through it without going crazy, you have to be open to all possibilities. You have to be open to the fact that the Earth is flat and we've never gone to space. And then at the extreme end, you have to be open to the fact that we have a secret space program and there's Hughes there and there's Marines fighting on Mars. And you got to be open to all these possibilities in between, including the mundane explanations we're fed by the mainstream media. And that's the only responsible way to go about it, I think, is to keep your mind open. Don't make any definitive statements, and just try to put the pieces together and try to figure out what's going on. And then if you're ever in a situation where you start working as a government contractor, well, then you'll be able to kind of piece these things together for yourself. Who knows? Or if alien disclosure ever comes out, you'll be prepared. I don't know. That's a good point. Now, you did mention the witnesses saying, oh, what if they're just full of it? Well, here on page 46, we got another snippet. Please be advised that Redacted did not admit to Redacted that his story was a hoax, but only stated that if questioned by authorities, he was going to say it was a hoax because he did not want any further trouble over the matter. That's pretty interesting. So again, someone reports an UFO sighting to the FBI. These guys come and investigate, and they say that this guy here, this witness, is going to claim his story is a hoax because it's too much of a hassle. He doesn't want to be known as the UFO nut job. He's just going to say he made the whole thing up just so he doesn't have to deal with it any further. I think a lot of people have that same attitude.
Yeah, again, it's not a lot of these people that come out with some of the UFO accounts that they have. They don't do it because they get, they don't go viral, and get, let's say like, I don't know, recent memory. Anybody that comes out politically to malign or attack somebody that might get, let's say, elected or appointed to a high-ranking position, where they get to smear. They may lose their career, but they get these, GoFundMe accounts where they get millions of dollars. It's no secret where that money's coming from. Okay, but a lot of these people that have these accounts, that they don't, it never gets to that point. It's never. You know what I mean? Like they do this because this is what they saw. What you see is what you see, and it's it's one thing to say that guy's a crackpot, and it's another thing entirely to maybe listen to what people have to say and take them seriously, because who knows? Just because you don't believe they saw it doesn't mean they didn't see it. It doesn't change the fact that they saw something, right? So one way or the other, I mean, we talk about that a lot too. It's about realities, it's about perceptions, it's about, motives. Again, if this stuff doesn't cross your mind, you're looking at this the wrong way, we think. So there we go. Pretty good stuff. But good question, good comments on everybody there, and then way to back that one up there, Frank, because you never know, right? Like in these things, right? This is not just one person. This is just not one sighting. These are not a dozen or a few dozen or a few hundred or a few thousand. These are tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of sightings. And, we've had people here call and say they've seen aliens themselves. They've had visitations. They've seen reptilians. They've seen actual, had lost time. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like, you can't just discount everybody as a quack. You just can't do it. Like, to me, it's the most absurd impossibility ever to just literally just write everything off that doesn't fit your belief system as quacks. That's the most closed-minded thing you could ever do. But of course, there's going to be some quacks or attention seekers in there, right? Of course. So there we go.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about perception too. Like, if you go around your life and you're negative, you're constantly overly negative about everything, you know, things tend to be negative back to you. Like, if you have a positive opinion, though, you tend to do better. If you're hopeful, if you're optimistic, then when you go into work to start a project, you're not immediately discounting it as impossible, but you're saying, you have the mindset, you have the open mindset to say, oh, I could do this, here's how I might go about it. And it's the same thing for this, right? If you go through your life saying aliens aren't real, it's all fake, and then you walk next to one on a street, it just walks right by you. What are you going to do? You're going to turn your head the other way and ignore it. But if you're open to the possibility that they could be out there, that there could be a reptilian shapeshifter working in your job, well, then when you see it, you'll be aware of it. Again, though, just keep your mind open. I think that's the key thing. Open mind, optimistic outlook on life.
Yeah, and remember, don't just because you don't believe it doesn't mean the person telling you they saw it. You know, your belief system doesn't discount their reality, type of thing. I guess I was trying to say. Probably a better way to say it. But okay, so we're coming to the end here, guys. If you guys have any questions comments keep coming, which is amazing. You guys have great comments. But if anybody wants to be on the show, is what I was about to say, please give us a call. We got a couple minutes. We'll make some time for you. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link. You can find both of them on troubledminds.org. Also, the live stream is there, and we have open phone lines. Again, this is open source. We are unlike the government. We want to know what you think. If you think we're full of crap, we want to know about it, and we'll take that punch on the chin. That's why we're here. That's why we do this. That's why we have open lines. That's why we read the comments. This is all open source, guys. This is we're taking information from you. We're learning things from you, and as we go, we try to be as open-minded as possible. Though, being open-minded does trouble your mind, yes. There you go, hence the name. But, okay, so, anything else, Frank, as we wind this down and beg for calls? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link, guys, and get on the show. Otherwise, we're going to wind this down in a few minutes, and there we go.
Again, this document is fascinating. If you have time, skim through it. It's worth it to see how seriously they're taking the idea. Let's go for a final section here. Page 53. They're talking about metal fragments observed at West Ridge on July 7th, 1947. Classified security matter X. It's showing up again. So apparently, fires were apparently caused by metallic fragmentation, which were turned over to Redacted of MIT via Redacted of the telephone company. Redacted has advised Redacted that their general redacted appearance are similar to the lining of V-2 bombs, which he had observed at New Mexico. So again, these guys are seeing crashes, seeing metal fragments, starting fires, going collecting this stuff, and then turning it over to, it looks like MIT here. So this stuff's happening. And they're not taking it as a joke. They're not saying, UFOs. They're taking it seriously. So much so they're sending people out to, crazy out-of-the-way locations to pick up metal fragments. So again, this is serious stuff. And we should take it as seriously as the government takes it, because they're taking it pretty seriously. At least they were in 1940.
Well, okay, interesting. I want to read this real quick. So when you go to this website, okay, so it's like they have redactions. Everything's blacked out, as you can see, as we go through this document. Tons of stuff is blacked out, right? But as you go to this actual FBI document, if you guys click the link, it's right there, pinned in the Facebook stream. We'll also have it on the website. That's coming. We're going to update that. We have a new stable web host. Please go check out the website, guys. troubledminds.org. If you have not joined the mailing list, please do. We have tons of, I say tons, dozens even. We have dozens of secret episodes, okay, that you may not have been privy to, because if you didn't catch them live, they didn't get archived, at least publicly. So you have to join the mailing list, and you'll have access to those. But what happened is they got rolled back, and so we lost some of that. Meaning that if you joined the mailing list 2 weeks ago, it rolled back the database and you were no longer in the mailing list. So to make sure, if you already joined the mailing list, go ahead and jump on there and do it again. If I got a duplicate, I'll just delete one of them. But you may have thought you joined it and you're not on it currently because of our crappy web host. So that's part of what happened. But who knows? Maybe we were attacked by I don't even want to speculate. But okay, but I want to say, so there's a disclaimer on top of the disclaimer when you go to this link here. I'm sure Frank saw this. It's okay. So it says the FBI's FOIA library contains many files of public interest and historical value. In compliance with the National Archives and Records Administration (NARA) requirements, some of these records are no longer in the physical possession of the FBI, eliminating the FBI's capability to re-review and or reprocess this material. See where we're going with this? Please note that the information found in these files may no longer reflect the current beliefs, positions, opinions, or policies currently held by the FBI. So it's so they can, with that single statement, they can literally disavow any of this stuff and say that we never took this seriously. Though at the time, J. Edgar Hoover was involved in this, email chain. Of course, it wasn't email then, but you get the point, right? Anyway, I'm sure you saw that, right, Frank? It popped right up and was like, "Hey, wait a minute!
Yeah, definitely.
Before you see any of this, we need the disclaimer on top of the disclaimer. Anything you find here, you can't use it against us because we don't really believe this crap anymore."
More troubling is they said it's no longer in their possession, so they've deleted it or they've gotten rid of it or something, so they can't reinvestigate. Anyway, what are some grand kind of takeaways from this? What are some takeaway points? In 1947, the FBI was taking UFOs very seriously, so they were investigating them and forwarding all this to the War Department. We also found proof here, it looks like, that they captured some of these crashes. The Army and the FBI went to investigate. The Army took some kind of crash saucer away from the FBI, didn't let them see it. We also have reports in here about the FBI collecting metal fragments and other crashes and things like this. So again, very serious investigations. What are some other takeaways? Again, this interdimensional alien thing that lines up with that Area 51 caller, lines up with this Hindu mythology. It seems to be something to pay attention to. Not the fact that aliens are from some faraway solar system, but the fact that they're from this solar system, just in a parallel dimension to us. Any other takeaways you can think to pull from this document?
That this is a government document. So again, guys, whether you believe this or not, if you think this is right with what you believe or completely opposite, remember the government's taking this seriously. So if the government's taking it seriously in the name of national security, whether you believe this stuff or not, maybe you should rethink. So we're going to do some more of this in the future and go through some documents. If you guys enjoy this, let us know. We'd love that feedback. We think it's amazingly fascinating. Some of the power plays that go on behind the scenes, you can read between the lines here and see what's happening on the UFO thing. And they talk about specifically, did you see that one, Frank, where J. Edgar Hoover said somebody actually sent a memo to him that said, hey, you need to force the media to not talk about these things, and then went on to correct it by actually saying, well, maybe strongly encourage them, right? They changed the terminology.
I did see that. That was a good part. Let me see if I can find that and read it out real quick, because that was a telling about how the media work.
Exactly. They overlord the media. They literally keep them under their heel. So if you think that the media is telling you something that the government doesn't want you to know, you're dreaming, guys. You're dreaming. Okay, so anyway, with that said, we try to do our best here with this document. If you want to follow up on this, again, the link is here. If the link doesn't work, try a different browser, because it does work. I click it. It works for me. It works for other people in here. Some people said the link is broken. It does work. If not, check out the keep your ear to the ground on troubledminds.org, because this stuff will be going up there. We're going to catch it up soon, because now we have a stable web host, hopefully, and we won't get rolled back on and ruin weeks of work, because that sucks. But here we go. As Frank finds this, so we're winding down. If you guys want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link. You can find that on troubledminds.org. Let us know. Feedback. Is the website working? Can you see the stream there? Yeah. And Christian saying, someone please call. Christian called us last time, I'm pretty sure, if that's the same Christian from Arizona. If not, then if you're a new Christian and not that same Christian, well, we don't deal in last names here, man. We're not trying to call you guys out and put you on a list. So there we go. But yeah, if you guys want to be on the show, winding down. Got a couple minutes left. We'll make time for you. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link. You can find both of them on troubledminds.org. And here we go. Here we go. I'll type it for you, Wes. Wes wants the number. You got that, Frank?
I couldn't. Oh, here we go. So, yeah, talking correspondence with J. Edgar Hoover. Doesn't it seem wisest for you to forbid papers and then in parentheses, no, not forbid, but ask their cooperation, close parentheses, to keep all news of these discs out of the news until you are just sure what they are and where they are from. So they're kind of making a joke here. Doesn't it seem wisest for you to forbid papers? So they're essentially admitting that in 1947 they had control of journalism. They could forbid papers to talk about things. And of course they, do a little explanation, no, not forbid, but ask their cooperation. But it seems that this is some kind of confirmation that even back then, the FBI could control what the newspapers talked about. They could forbid certain topics from being discussed. Amazing. So again, this is a true peek behind the curtain at what was going on at the time, and it's definitely of historical worth. This is amazing to see this kind of stuff. You're never going to see this kind of stuff again, unless we get more declassifications. But this is how these FBI offices are actually interacting with each other in this topic, and they're taking it serious. So I think we should too.
There you go. We got a call coming in, so we'll take this call and then we'll end the show. Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for listening. Here we go. We're taking this call. Let's do this. Good evening. You are on Troubled Minds with Frank and Mike. What's happening, man? First name, where are you calling from?
My name's Wes. I'm calling from Wasilla, Alaska.
Wes from Alaska. Oh, I didn't read your comment. That's an amazing comment. Can I read your comment, or do you want to just tell us about it?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
All right. Wes said, so we just had this big earthquake here in Alaska, and we've had over 1,400 aftershocks. And on 11/11/18, there was apparently a seismic anomaly that rippled across the world. He was talking about that specifically. Frank and I were kicking this around before we started whether we should add this. I think we're going to add this on Tuesday, but this was like ocean waves rippling across the world that were unexplained. They had no idea what caused these things, and it was literally a worldwide thing that happened. Okay, and then he continues, and since we had the earthquake, there have been 4 reported UFO spotting on the MUFON website since that day in Alaska. So there we go. Welcome, Wes from Alaska. That's a mouthful. What's on your mind, brother?
Well, I'm glad you guys brought me on. A big thing about earthquake activity, and this was something that I studied personally, is that UFO activity heightens around an earthquake, and it's with a lot of natural disasters, but it seems like it really picks up with an earthquake specifically. Haiti, they had something like 17 confirmed UFO spottings, through their community that they put out. Don't quote me on that number, but I'm pretty sure it was close to that.
Okay, so what is the theory here? I can take a stab. What do you think? What do you think, Frank, on the theory on why they show up around earthquakes? Is it because of the maybe loss of life, or is it something to do with the plate tectonics, or I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. Again, maybe it is some kind of looking after humanity type deal, because we had reports of UFO sightings around nuclear bases and during the 1947 when they were worrying about the bomb and so on and so forth. So maybe it is some kind of UFOs investigating humans, seeing if they're cattle, because we're cattle to them, if we're all right. I have no idea.
Yeah, what do you think, Wes?
Well, that's kind of an interesting point, the cattle. I mean, that's a really good way to put it. And the way that I kind of theorize is that it's almost like an Overwatch group. Not to drop the pun there, but it seems like they do kind of keep their eyes on us. And if they are investing, if they're using any sort of currency whatsoever, they're investing in this project that is Earth or humans. I would imagine I'd want to keep an eye on my livestock as well. So it's surprising to me that these things aren't really registered by at least a mass population somewhere. I mean, it's hard to miss a UFO, especially over a disaster area, I would imagine. But like I said, there's been spottings here, and this was no small earthquake. So.
Yeah, I didn't catch what was it super bad? Did a bunch of people meet their demise there? I didn't catch the actual headlines, but I did see it was like a 7.1 or 7.1 or something like that, right?
Yeah, it was a 7.2 actually, and actually nobody was found to be dead.
Okay.
There were a couple of injuries, minor injuries, compared to Haiti when it happened down there. complete devastation. But here we build for the earthquakes. The engineers, because we're right on the ring of fire, they build for that. And so our buildings are pretty strong, and they got some good sway to them. They can ride out an earthquake rather well. We had the 1964 earthquake, which was our first lesson in earthquakes. So nowadays, we had some infrastructure damage. Of course, all the liquor stores are, shot down, and we definitely had some road damage and some major cracks. Our railroad shut down right now, right outside of Anchorage, and it definitely put a halt on things. But
yeah, you know what? That's amazing that it's such a gigantic earthquake. There are a lot of people living up there, but nobody actually ended up dying. That's amazing. That's why I asked you. I want to make sure everybody was okay. I didn't want to put it in a callous manner, and I think I did anyway, because foot in mouth type thing. But that's just what we do here at Troubled Minds Radio. But yeah, it's good to know.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, just making sure. But yeah, other than that, you were referring to the wave ripple, right? Is that was it the comment was about?
Yeah, so I read into that a little bit, and it's apparently happened a couple of times before. Again, there's a lot of mainstream scientists that say that's basically an axis shift for the Earth. I don't know how well you can buy into that. I totally understand how that would work. Apparently, it happened again with the earthquake in Haiti. But it's something that's kind of been either on the down low or something that nobody cares about. So it's hard to really nail down, especially for the scientific community, because nobody's seen it before. They don't understand it, and why is that happening? But I believe for seismic activity, that would be a total giveaway. It's interesting to me, though, that it goes all the way across the globe.
Yeah, it was, I'm not sure where it started, but I think it was somewhere in the, I don't know exactly where they first picked it up, but it was felt literally around the globe. Like that, they have the wave measurements all the way around, and it was like as far away as Hawaii from where it started. I think it was like, I want to say South Africa near Madagascar. I think that's where it started, and it was felt near Hawaii. That's literally global, worldwide. So we'll pull that up and look into that a little bit for the next show. We were kicking around this time, but Frank said he hadn't seen the articles yet, so we didn't want to try and shoehorn in what we didn't really know that much about. But yeah, that one's coming, so we'll do that in the next show. And yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because it is definitely like WTF. There's things happening on this earth we have no idea what's going on, and again, we like to say we know what's going on, and we know better than that. Us here in this stream listening to the show, we know better. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Go.
So what do you guys think about Middle Eastern UFO lore? There's been a lot of crazy cases over there. Do you have any documents or anything, sort of information about stuff going on down there?
You know what? That's one we haven't touched on a lot, though we should. Middle Eastern is, we can go back to, we did do the Lost Book of Enki with the Anunnaki and Zecharia Sitchin and that, which would be Middle East for sure. But other than that, like anything more modern than, say 1 million years ago, and those Sumerian writings, we really haven't touched on too much. How about you, Frank? Anything else you've read or picked up on it about that?
It seems to be that, out in the desert there's crazy stuff happening that we just don't pay any attention to. We pay attention to the wars and the terrorism, but not giants in caves, not UFOs. I know there was that big Tehran UFO sighting. But yeah, that's a region that I think we just don't pay attention to. Same thing with like Africa, same thing with the Mongolian area. We don't pay attention to these regions for whatever reason, but stuff happens there too. So yeah, it's definitely something to look into in the future.
Not enough people with smartphones and internet to really care about. If they're not clicking ads, we don't care about them.
Yeah. It was interesting the way you guys were talking about, the compartmentalization and the generals of all the different branches working together and kind of doing one thing and controlling what we do. But imagine the influence that they have outside of the country. The Saudi Arabians would be a prime example. But, imagine what the global network connection could be there with a bunch of military leaders all getting in a room smoking cigars, That to me would be a prime example of for a lack of a better term, elite cabal.
Yeah, and funny, I always bring this up because it's so many parallels, but it reminds you of, at least reminds me of X-Files, where you have those, the cigarette smoking man, and then he's got all those, there's like a dozen guys that run the whole damn world, right? And just like you said, they're in a dark room smoking cigars. It kind of definitely gives you that vibe, right? Like like I said, the smaller the circle, the bigger the secrets, and that definitely kind of lines up with that vibe. So you wonder who might be in those smallest of smallest circles. Pretty crazy stuff, huh?
That's straight out of the Exopolitics by Michael Salla, right? Is that, again, these temporary employees, senators, congressmen, the president, you don't tell them anything because they're only there for 4 years. You tell the generals, you tell the CIA operatives, you tell the head of the FBI. Those are the real people in charge because they're in that job for their entire.
Exactly. The politicians are the temporary employees. We're talking about the shadow government here. Yeah, so we've talked about that quite a bit, but there you go. I digress. What else, man? What else you got?
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate having me on, and I'll continue listening on in the future.
Appreciate the call, man. Thanks for listening. I'm glad you guys are all okay up there in Alaska, and keep on doing what you do.
Thank you, sir. You guys have a good one.
Thanks, man. Have a good night. All right, guys, that was Wes from Alaska. There we go. Earthquake report is there. Okay, everybody's okay. No loss of life with the 7.2 earthquake. That's a minor miracle, and you can call that. I guess we'll call it. We'll give them credit, eh, Frank? Modern engineering. You build for earthquakes. Maybe people don't die. That's amazing.
Big surprise. Wow.
Yeah, right.
You don't squander all your money with corrupt politicians and some asshole. Oh, too political.
Too political. All right. So anyway, all right.
Too political. One thing he did bring up that I found very interesting, just Googling earthquakes and UFOs, you'll see news reports from up to 10 years ago until the current day where around earthquake zones, you see UFOs, whether it's balls of light or whether it's actual ships. So this is a phenomenon. It's a real phenomenon. We have to look into it more. That's a good.
Yeah, that's a good one. We should do a whole show on exactly that and look into some of it. So we're winding down here, guys. We're long, so we're going to end this. But you know what to do, right? So if you want to join the mailing list, go to troubleminds.org, join the mailing list. Again, if you thought you did it, your email might have been deleted, so do it again. If you're in there twice, I'll just delete you, no sweat. So please do. Check out the website because it is on a new host now. We want to make sure it works for everybody. And the live stream is there. You can find us if you go directly to troubleminds.org at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. You will find us. You don't have to go to Facebook. You don't have to go to any of these other places. YouTube, who's really been giving us a hard time, just go straight to our website and you can watch us there. 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. There you go. So we're going to wind this down and cue some outro music, give you one more chance, Frank, and we're doing this. This is the end, guys. This is the end.
I think we learned something very important today, and that's that the government takes these UFO sightings seriously, deadly serious. So the next time, you're talking about UFOs, or you say to your buddy, hey, I saw a UFO, and they say, come on now, you don't believe in that crazy stuff, do you? Well, you can point to this government document, and you can tell them, yes, I do. And so does the FBI. So does the military. So does the Navy. So keep that in mind, that we're not crazy. We have a legitimate concern here, and we share that concern with our government. That's all.
That's all. I'm not so sure that's all, but there's more. There's always more. There's always more. David, thanks for showing up. Last comment, he says, it's all a bunch of BS. You want answers, go knock down a door. It's ridiculous. It's time to disclose what we know collectively. Amen, brother. Amen. We couldn't have said it better. One more from Fred. He says, you got to wonder when California is due. One of the reasons I left California. That San Andreas, it's barking. It's been barking. Be careful out there. Hopefully the modern engineering can help them out as well. And we have minimal loss of human life there. That would be amazing. But it is on the way. It is on the way. Okay, so there we go, guys. We're at the end of this. So we talked about all kinds of things. But if you like this show, you can help us out. Go to troubleminds.org. Find all of our social media on there. Follow us on all of them. Right? That's the only way to make sure that if we get banned somewhere along the line, which might happen, you can find us on our website. So troubleminds.org, go there, bookmark that, visit frequently, join the mailing list if you haven't. You can find bonus content and secret shows there by joining our mailing list. And there we go. There we go. Otherwise, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, we have shows live. You want to be part of the show? Go to Troubled Minds at those times. You'll find us. But otherwise, yes, you're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. I'm here with your co-host, Frank Pierce. Thank you for listening. And from our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.